the fact that this would travel, these images would travel through social media. They've struck and paralyzed the commercial aviation. Dubai airport, one of the busiest airports in the world, is shut. It's empty. Passengers are stranded.
Yes.
This is the next level
worse
of
is
the
in store,
escalation ladder.
Sandeep. Worse is in store. That is the threat that comes from Iran. Mein Hoffman, given the situation right now, is Israel bracing for more, or is Israel confident the manner in which they were able to deal with Hamas and then Hezbollah, the top leadership, second line leadership, third line leadership, that they will be able to deal with whatever emerges from Iran?
Yes, I mean, look, military analysts are saying that these strikes could go on for quite a long time. The IDF has been continuing to strike in Iran all night. They do have a hit list of the leadership that they plan to annihilate in Iran. And it can be assumed, as President Trump said, that this could go on not for days, but for weeks in order to ensure effectively regime change. Now, the Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump have called on the people of Iran to take to the streets against the regime. But as we saw in your report, some of those people are taking to the streets now, given this situation and the high level of attacks in Iran, to ban with the regime, to say they support the regime right now and are actually chanting death to America and going against the attacks. It's only to be seen. We do know that by and large, though, the people of Iran do deserve and want a regime change. And the goal certainly of this operation is to take down the key leadership in Iran so that there won't be a replacement, as you mentioned, with Hezbollah or with Hamas, and that this organization, the IRGC, will be weakened enough that there will effectively be able to be more stability.
Is that disappointment, and mind, stay with me as I bring in Sandeep into this conversation. Sandeep, is that disappointment with the American interception mechanism, the kind of air defense system they have in place? We saw in Qatar, there were some missiles that went and fell at sensitive locations. We saw that in Dubai. And Dubai, we are told, the United Arab Emirates, they've invested heavily in America, giving them that protection. But if commercial centers are being targeted, somewhere down the line, it raises very serious questions about the air defense system, unless, of course, this is one excuse for more investment in air defense system by the American weapons industry.
Well, Gaurav, all of those strikes could not have happened, but for those chinks in the armor. The Gulf sheikdoms have their own air defense systems. There have been Patriot missile batteries that have been moved into place. The THAAD systems, or the Theater High Altitude Air Defense Systems, have been moved in. But clearly, these have been ineffective in, preventing the swarms of attacks. But that is exactly how swarm attacks work, that you overwhelm the system by firing so many cruise missiles and drones that it reduces the capability or the capacity of the defenses to respond to every one of them. There will be one or two cruise missiles that will go through. There will be a Shahid drone that will go through and strike its target. And, the fact is that is the strategy that Iran has banked on for several years now. It has got tens of thousands of these drones, cheap, inexpensive, pilotless target aircraft. It's got over 5,000 ballistic missiles. They've prepared for this for several years now. And this is literally all of this equipment, this entire arsenal, Gaurav, built by the IRGC. This is directly under the Islamic Revolutionary
And
Guards.
let me then bring in Mayan Hoffman for more on this, because that raises a very pertinent question, Mayan. Last time, the Iron Dome system and the David Sling were overwhelmed. The manner in which very expensive missiles were being spent to neutralize drones that just cost a couple of $100. Has Israel been able to think this through? How does it manage this next time? Because these cheap drones that will keep coming in and wave after wave after wave, is that a huge threat? And the loitering munition?
Well, it's certainly a threat. I do want to remind you that our laser system has been up and running now for the last few months. Israel was preparing for what would eventually be an Iranian attack. Remember that we heard from American officials that there was really no choice at this point. The U.S. had to attack. Iran was planning a preemptive strike, they said. Here in Israel, we've known that this was going to happen and have been prepared. I think, as you heard, we can't expect 100%. That's why the Home Front Command has put in regulations for the population that must be followed. Here in Israel, we have quite a number of bomb shelters. However, I will say in Tel Aviv, last night you see hundreds of Tel Avivians holed up undergrounds in these makeshift, in these bomb shelters, these communal bomb shelters, because they can't go home because they don't have one in their house. But by and large, you saw a person killed, but most of the time, although the system will be tapped and we will spend a fortune, the Israeli people will hopefully be safe. Last time there were more than 24 people killed over those 12 days. That was the most in any other war. I would hope that we wouldn't see such a high level this time, given again the cheaper and more effective laser system that is targeting a lot of these drones and missiles outside of the airspace even of Israel. But again, that is to be seen because it really depends how many drones and missiles of the rockets that Iran is able to send at once. If they're going to carry out what they call this ferocious attack, we could be slightly overwhelmed. But again, we will spend the money. Israel will always spend the money to protect its people.
Because right now it's not just Israel, Sandeep. Along with Israel, when you look at these images, you actually have practically the entire West Asian commercial centers that are being targeted, military centers that are being targeted, and very systematically, and Iran is threatening the worst is yet to come. For a moment, I want to just play out those videos, and man, stay with me, Sandeep, stay with me, as I play out one after the other names of top leaders, apart from Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. So the supreme leader, he's been killed. Along with the supreme leader, I just want our production to bring out those graphics. Who are the others who've been killed? Ali Shamkhani. Ali Shamkhani was one of the key aides of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He was Secretary of the Defense Council. He was someone who was actually looking after the negotiations with the United States of America as a backroom boy, Secretary of its Defense Council, handled defense, 70 years old. He's been neutralized. Mohammad Pakpur, the main commander of the IRGC, and the IRGC is seen as the sword arm of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. We are being told that Iran already had a plan B in place, the next in command ready to take over given those tasks, but Israel says they've neutralized 40 top leaders. Mohammad Shirazi is one of the key names. Why? Because Mohammad Shirazi was the head of the military bureau for over 40 years. As you look at these images of destruction that has taken place, I also want those images of the top leaders who've been neutralized to be put out. Saleh Asadi was one of the top intelligence leaders who was neutralized. Again, Saleh Asadi was one person who was almost constantly with Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, giving him pinpoint details of intelligence inputs that were coming in within the country and from across the world. Ali Shamkhani, Secretary of the Defense Council, killed. Mohammad Pakpur, head, the man you see on your television screen, head of IRGC, killed. Mohammad Shirazi, head of their military bureau. Saleh Asadi, senior intelligence officer. Aziz Nasirzadeh was the defense minister of Iran, Brigadier General Aziz Nasirzadeh, and he's the one who was playing a key role, Sandeep, in getting countermeasures in place. The Iranian missiles, the silos, all of them, where would plan B, next phase of attacks take place? He was the one who was organizing that. He's been neutralized, Sandeep.
Well, absolutely, Gaurav. And, they've started this campaign, the US and Israel have started this campaign with a massive organogram of all the leaders that they need to take out to collapse the regime of Iran, or to weaken it to such an extent that any uprising could bring that regime down. And the target, as you mentioned correctly, Gaurav, has been the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Council, or the IRGC. Now, the IRGC is a very interesting organization. It reports not to the Iranian people, but to the party. It reports to the supreme leader. It is the military of the Islamic Revolution that was set up in 1979. It is very distinct from the Iranian armed forces, or the Artesh, which have been there for several decades now. IRGC only reports to the supreme leader. It is in that sense, it is the army of the revolution. And that is what the US and Israel have been targeting. They've been going after all the IRGC leaders, the top leaders of the ones that you're flashing on screen right now. All of them in the hope that the IRGC would be weakened to such an extent that they would not be able to operate, and most importantly, not fire the missiles. The IRGC controls all of Iran's drones, cruise missiles and ballistic missiles. The IRGC is the aerospace force directly controls the missiles and drones. So this is a way of collapsing the IRGC's ability, Iran's ability to launch ballistic missiles, cruise missiles. So this is a very interesting game that we are witnessing, Gaurav. The fact is that these decapitation strikes, if they continue, could seriously impair the command and control of the IRGC. Disrupt their ability to launch more ballistic missiles to a point when Iran would be completely defenseless, vulnerable to more air
But
strikes.
Iran also has a couple of aces up its sleeve, Mayan, and would that be a cause for serious concern, not just for Israel, but for the entire Gulf region? Because Israel may have the Iron Dome, Israel may have the David Sling, and if I may, Israel now has the USS Gerald Ford aircraft carrier battle group off the coast of Haifa with its best air defense system, and Abraham Lincoln has the sword arm to strike. But then the Gulf region does not. And this is where Gulf countries become very vulnerable, man. And that would be a cause for grave concern for them.
Yes, and it is a cause for great concern. I want to start by just saying, even as I've been waiting for this, for this next question, we've had two more sirens, two more areas of sirens wailing in Jerusalem, both in southern Israel, and a drone that was just intercepted over Eilat. And certainly there is concern in the region. As we know, Iran has already targeted the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, accidentally, what I understand, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Kuwait, etc. And there is collaboration. You have to remember that back in April and October of the previous years in 2024 that we band together in order to stop those massive barrages against Israel by Iran. And the understanding is that we are working together, again, the United States and Israel, of course, in very close coordination, but also with our regional partners, the Abraham Accords countries and the others, in order to be able to stop those drones. I can assume that we have been able to help those countries as well. And some of those interceptors are also available in some of those countries. It's not only Israel that has protection, but certainly we are much more attuned to this, and the other countries are not.
Oh, you're absolutely right. The images that we are getting from Qom, those are very worrisome, Mayan, especially for Israel, because Qom is a very, very critical religious center for the people of Iran. And this is where, Mayan, you could see people rise, take to the streets in favor of Ayatollah, even as we see some images of celebrations in Tehran, muted as they may be. But Mayan, quickly respond to this.
Well, I mean, I think that what you're, if you're talking about, the attacks that Israel is carrying out, it certainly could lead to some of the people, being frustrated and spanning with the Iranian regime, if that's what you're implying. As I mentioned before, you're seeing both on the streets. But I think by and large, we know that the Iranian people wanted, quote unquote, help to be on the way. And it is expected that while the IRGC may unleash, as they said, the most ferocious war, and that could lead to more deaths, both in Israel and in areas of the region, as well as destruction of the economy. I mean, thinking about those commercial centers and what can happen in the region, potentially some kind of regional war. It sounds right now from what Prime Minister Netanyahu and what President Trump are saying, that they also have quite a number of tricks up their sleeves. They have their hit list, there are more weapons, and certainly they are planning to carry these strikes through until they are able to achieve success. The annihilation of the Iranian nuclear program, first and foremost. We know just from a few days before these attacks started that there was still enriched uranium in Iran that needed to be confiscated or removed.
Stay with me for a moment, Mayan. I've got latest breaking news coming in from Baghdad, from the capital of Iraq. Hundreds of people have taken to the streets to mourn the martyrdom of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei in Baghdad. Remember, Iran and Iraq, while they may have fought an 8-year war, the Shia population in Iraq was very close to the people of Iran, and the Shia population, you watch those images, they are gradually taking to the streets and they are protesting the killing of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Iranian drones and missiles have targeted some of the American locations or sensitive locations, even in Iraq, Sandeep, especially in the northern part, the Kurdish-held area. Erbil airport was targeted, certain other locations were targeted. The situation remains extremely, extremely volatile almost across the region, Sandeep.
Absolutely, Gaurav. And the fact is that what many people don't realize is that Iraq is actually a Shia majority country. For the longest
51-49, you're
time,
right.
until 2003, Iraq was a Shia majority country ruled by a Sunni Arab minority. And that changed dramatically after 2003, after the US invasion of Iraq. And what we saw after that, Gaurav, was a Shia crescent of sorts, where you could drive from the Mediterranean right up to the Arabian Sea, where you had a row of Shia countries, starting from Lebanon, South Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Iran. And today, that Shia crescent would be up in mourning. They would be extremely unhappy at what happened. The assassination of Ayatollah Khamenei is someone, the supreme leader, who's been in charge for several decades now, close to 4 decades. He's one of the longest ruled leaders in West Asia, possibly since the Shah of Iran. Almost, he was there right from 1988 onwards, since the death of Ayatollah Khomeini. So that's nearly 4 decades. That's a very long time. And he's actually, a lot of what we see in Iraq today, you can blame it on him, but he's been the one leading Iran into where it is today. The entire building up of the IRGC, its capabilities, the nuclear program, all of these were done under Ayatollah Khamenei. And today, what you're seeing out there on the streets of Baghdad, you're seeing it across the Shia world, and possibly through the Muslim world as well, because you've taken out a very, very important Muslim leader in the holy month of Ramadan, Gaurav.
Absolutely, that's a very critical point that you're making, and mine, would that be a cause for very grave concern, a Shia uprising in different parts of the world, or would America and Israel have factored that in, considering this entire Shia arc that we talk about could well likely erupt?
Look, I think there's no question that the United States and Israel would have taken into account that you could see a Shia or any other uprising in the region. We were warned by, Saudi Arabia as well. If you remember, many of the Gulf states were concerned about exactly what you're seeing now. Though I think, as President Trump indicated yesterday, the Americans expected that the retaliation would be even stronger than it has been to date. But again, a new and more ferocious attack is expected by the IRGC in the aftermath of Khamenei's assassination. So that is to be seen. But I think there's no question that you could see a very large regional war. You're already seeing, as you mentioned, Iraqi, Shias attacking American entities, and you could see more of that. But again, this was a war that was really unavoidable at this point. President Trump said yesterday that in his interview with Israel's Channel 12, that while he was trying to negotiate in diplomacy was certainly the goal, that every time that Iran appeared to come toward the United States, it then pulls away, and they did not believe that they would be able to reach any kind of deal. And clearly the ballistic missiles, as we're seeing them now hit Israel and the rest of the region, were an extreme danger to the area. He mentioned as well that in his speech preparation, when he tried to look into how often Iran was causing terror in the region, that it was minimally monthly, meaning that we've been suffering from these attacks, maybe not to this scale, but certainly for a very long time. Think about the October 7th massacre that was perpetrated by Hamas, a proxy of Iran, Hezbollah, as you saw in Lebanon, and it was starting to rebuild. So this wasn't just an issue of taking out Iran, but trying to stop terror in the region, which impacts not only Israel, but all of us. It was long before the Houthis ever attacked Israel. They were attacking the United Arab Emirates, if you recall.
Mine, in fact, I was in Israel on the 8th of October 2023. Through the month, they're covering the Hamas atrocities on the Israeli people, and then subsequently Hezbollah's attack on northern part of Israel, reporting from Haifa. That point taken, absolutely. The fact now remains, protests. The two images that you see on your television screen, there are protests that are taking place in Qom. Qom is a very, very significant religious center for Shia Muslims in Iran. And of course, Shia Muslims taking to the streets in Iraq. Iran and Iraq, very, very significant point. I also want to tell you a very, very big input that's coming in. Iraqi resistance group, Saraya Alwaya al-Daman. It's called the Blood Guardians Brigade. They've taken the responsibility for the attack on the US base in Erbil, which means the resistance now, Sandeep, is targeting US installations. It's not just Iranian missiles and drones, but local Shia militia is it likely to escalate? Because Israel have made one point very clear. They've targeted more than 500 places inside Iran. And America says attacks will be relentless, not over days, but over weeks.
No, absolutely, Gaurav. You know, one of the big things that the IRGC did over the last couple of decades, specifically under Major General Qasem Soleimani, whom Trump assassinated in his first term in 2020, was to set up this so-called axis of resistance all across Shia populations of West Asia, from Hezbollah in Lebanon to the Houthis in Yemen to the Kataib Hezbollah in Iraq, several such Shia groups inside of Iraq. All of these have been armed, trained, resourced, funded by the Iranian regime specifically for contingencies like this. And we saw that after the 7th of October massacre in 2023. I was there shortly after that, and I saw the full face of these atrocities that Hamas had inflicted on the Israeli civilians. And Hamas was, let's not forget, Gaurav, part of this axis of resistance. And what they did on the 7th of October is what has brought Iran to this position today. And this is something that Iran would be well aware of. There are consequences to setting up this so-called axis of resistance, but there are times when these axis of resistance will threaten your own survival. So the war that began, what we are seeing today, Gaurav, is a war that actually began on the 7th of October 2023. Let's not forget, this is the war that began by Hamas massacring Israeli civilians on the 7th of October 2023. All of that is a consequence of this.
So give me a moment, Iraqi resistance group, and I want this big story, and we want to kind of focus on this for just a moment. Iraqi resistance group, Saraya Alvia Al-Daman, the Blood Guardians Brigade, takes responsibility for the attack on US base in Erbil. Maya Hoffman, is there an apprehension? You could see a massive spike in strikes.
Well, again, I think that we've just mentioned before that certainly you could see that, and I think that we just mentioned it quite well, that this is something that was going to be already taken into account by the United States and Israel when they went into this war. But the war was inevitable. There was no choice going back, as he mentioned, to the 7th of October, but also over the last 2.5 years, you've seen continual strikes by various entities against Israel and vice versa. And here, after April, after October, after attempt for negotiations and no ability to stop the Iranian regime from its plans to proliferate nuclear weapons that they would certainly use against the United States and Israel. The buildup with the help of China and Russia of the ballistic missiles, the arsenal there, these were threats not only to Israel but to the region. And I think it is a risk at this point that the United States and Israel felt that they had to take in order for the long-term stability of the region, which was obviously going in the wrong direction given the fact that Iran was unwilling to negotiate and come to a proper agreement.
So stay with me, Mayan, stay with me, Sandeep. I quickly now want to take our viewers to our newsroom where inputs are coming in, the manner in which the family of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was also targeted. The effort was to ensure it's not just Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, but the next line is also taken out. He's got 6 children. His son Mojtaba, who was not with him that time, he, according to reports from Iran, has now taken over. Anjali joins us with the latest on what next needs to be done. But Anjali, before I come to you, there's more breaking news coming in. US President Donald Trump was pushed by Israel, and not just Israel, but Israel and Saudi Arabia, to strike Iran. Now, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman made numerous phone calls to US President Donald Trump advocating this was the time for an attack. Those are inputs that are just coming in. Remember, Iran, according to Israel, was just a hair split distance away from making a nuclear bomb. Now, this is something that Iran has denied. In an exclusive interview to India today, just earlier this week, you had Iran's foreign minister saying they had no intentions of making a nuclear bomb. But that was not the American assessment. That was not the Israeli assessment. Now it appears that was also not the American and the Saudi assessment. And I want to bring in Sandeep Unnithan for more on this. Sandeep, there were many who were arguing that should Ayatollah Ali Khamenei be neutralized, the wider Islamic world would unite. But it's not just the Shia-Sunni divide. The manner in which Iran has targeted other Sunni Muslim countries in the region, and not just now, there wasn't much love's labor, practically lost when it comes to the Iranian regime. Even Saudi Arabia was advocating a strike.
Well, Gaurav, I think the Gulf monarchy is very wary of Iran, and particularly Iran's tendency to export revolution. Now, if Iran had kept the revolution within its borders, it wouldn't have been a problem. But when Iran took over, when the regime took over in '79, it began this policy of exporting the revolution across the world to Shia populations.
And well, we're not at World War III, but I think we're in trouble. So things came out really fast. I mean, fast.
All of these countries have
fast.
Shia
So
populations, some more than the
Iran
others,
news
but they
media
were extremely
prior
worried,
was
in
confirming
Iran that
death.
weaponized
So it looked like
religion the way it
misinformation.
has, the
They
kind of
first
impact it
confirmed
would have on their own country and their own internal stability.
Khamenei's
And they
daughter,
possibly see this
and I think
as an
I think it
opportunity
was nephew or
to
son-in-law,
unseat the regime
dead.
over there
Then they
and bring
confirmed
in
he
some
was
kind of
dead.
stability in West
Then they
Asia, Gaurav.
confirmed
The fact is that,
about
once
7 of his generals
if there
dead.
is a transition of power there,
Within
if there is
30
regime
minutes,
change in Iran,
they
Saudi
have
Arabia then
declared
becomes the most
that,
powerful
let's see,
country in the
Ahmad
region. So Saudi Arabia feels
Fahidi,
taking a break
if I pronounced his
for
name
the
correctly,
leadership of the
was
Islamic
named
world.
the
There's an
new
interesting triangle
brigadier
at play over
general
here, Gaurav.
and
You have, on the one hand, you have
IRGC
Turkey,
commander.
which claims to be the successor
And then
state of the
I would say
Ottoman
within
Empire.
10 to 20
On
minutes
the
after
south, you
that,
have Saudi Arabia, which is the largest Sunni
Khamenei's
Arab region in the
son,
country and the custodians of the
Mojtaba
two holy mosques. And to
Khamenei,
the north,
was
you
just
have
elected supreme
Iran.
leader.
And
I
this,
mean, just like that.
this
Bam, bam,
triangle
bam, bam.
is the one that is
So
actually deciding
they had
the fate
reported
of
that
Islam. And all of them,
he might have
from
had
time
his
to time
children,
try to
because he
champion
has,
the
I
cause
think they
of
said
Islam.
about
If
6 or
Iran
7
falls
sons
off the map,
in a totally
Very
undisclosed
big statement
location,
that's
like
coming in. It's a
undisclosed.
Washington
Like,
Post
we didn't
report
even know
that's
this.
coming in.
He had
Washington
sons
Post
like
report
this.
has said
So
US President
they had
Donald
his
Trump was
family
pushed by Israel and
completely
Saudi
away
Arabia to strike
from,
Iran.
let's just
Saudi
say,
Crown Prince
Israeli
Mohammed bin
intelligence, which
Salman
it makes
made
sense.
numerous phone calls to
Because
President
if you know
Trump
you're being spied on,
advocating
you're always
for
in the
an
news,
attack. And
you want to keep the
Mayan,
rest of
your
your family out of
appreciation,
it, especially if
we
they're
would
pulling the
understand
strings.
why
Because a
Israel
news
would
reporter
want
said
a
that
strike
his
on
sons, at least the
on
one that
Iran.
just got elected
Your
supreme
reading
leader,
of why
was
Saudi
actually the
Arabia
one pulling
would
the
be
strings
advocating a
for
strike, according to this
military
Washington Post report.
operations, not his
Well, I
father.
think you have
Which
to
that
remember
makes sense
that
because
the
his
Gulf
father was
states,
old.
the
He was like
states
in
in the
his,
region have been
like 89.
countering
So
Iran for a very
I
long time, and
believe,
even before October
keeping out the
7th,
media, they were
2023.
already
But if
looking
you go
to
back
transfer
September
power
2023, and the
because he was
United
old.
Nations General
So
Assembly, and
that's
recall
the
the
headline
interviews
right
and
now.
speeches that took place
His
with the
son,
Saudi Crown Prince and
Mojtaba
with Israel. We were very
Khamenei,
close to
is now
signing
supreme
a
leader.
normalization agreement
Ahmad
with Saudi Arabia,
um,
Israel and Saudi Arabia at that
Fahadi
time.
is the
The
new
core of that agreement,
IRGC
though
commander.
it's often
So
spun as
they're going to
economic and there's
continue to
certain
keep
economic
replacing
benefits,
key
was
figureheads
actually a
one
ban
after
of
another
defense
after another.
against Iran and its
And
infiltration
they
of
have a
terror in the
40-day
region. The United
warning.
Arab Emirates and Bahrain,
So
both of
what
which have been
this looks
targeted,
like,
obviously, since these strikes started,
they may
are
mourn
members
for
of
40
the Abraham
days out of
Accords,
their
have been
respectful
fighting
tradition,
against Iran
and
for
they're going to probably have
quite
a
a long
pause
time,
for that
hoping
entire
to stop the
40-day
terror in the
period
region and
because
be
they
able
don't
to live
they
more
don't
in
want
peace with
any
its neighbors.
interruptions or
Saudi
disruptions.
Arabia
That's
was
disrespectful.
fearful that Iran, when it carried out any
Within
preemptive
that,
and
they're
other
probably
strikes
going to get
against Israel and
key
the region, would
leaders
also be
to
striking
bring in more
Saudi oil
arms,
reserves and trying
restock,
to show its dominance in the
re-strategize.
region.
Now,
Saudi
as far
Arabia
as
wants to
talks,
ensure
we
that
don't
it
know.
maintains its
But
stronghold, that it maintains its position, and also to protect its
you know,
citizens and, again,
I
the
expected
peace
Trump
in
to
the
come out
region.
with a press
I want to take
conference
you
since he
back
had
again to
intelligence from
2022
Israel,
and
but I
2021,
guess,
when the
you know, they
proxies of
wanted
Iran were
Iran to
attacking
say
the
it
Gulf
first,
states and
which
not
that
Israel.
makes sense.
And
We need
you have
Iran
to
to
remember that
confirm
this
it,
is a war, though
right? So
it's correct that
the
where
problem
we are
is
today was unleashed
the
because
strike
of the
first and
Hamas
ask questions
massacre
later
on
just bit him
October
in the
7th,
ass. Just
2023.
completely bit
This
him in the ass.
tension with
So
Iran and the
now
rest of the world has
he
been
cannot
going
claim
on
a win.
since its
You
invention
just
in the
made it
1970s
worse.
and has only gotten worse.
You
And there was certainly
completely
fear in the
made it
region
worse.
that if
You
Iran would
just
obtain a nuclear
got rid of
weapon,
a
that
father
wouldn't
and
only impact
moved in a
Israel,
son
that could
that's
attach
even
many other of the
more
regional players.
furious.
You know, in a
He may not
moment from now, we'll
be
also be
as
joined by
deadly,
Network
but now
Foreign
he's
Affairs editor
furious.
Geeta
And the
Mohan
worst
for more
thing
on this story, because this
to
is
have
huge.
at
This
your
is
back
huge,
is an
Sandeep.
angry
The fact
family
that
member.
Washington Post is now reporting it
So,
wasn't just Israel,
we have a
but
long
Saudi
way
Arabia,
to go.
and Saudi Arabia
This may
is
not
seen
be
as
World War
defender
III,
of the
but this is
faith.
going to be
So
another
the
Middle
defender
Eastern
of the
war
faith
that just dragged us
also
into this.
wanted
And however
Iran to
long
be
this is going to
targeted
last,
because
I
the
guarantee you
entire
the next
region,
president is going to have a
according
lot
to
on their
several
hands,
reports,
a whole
were
lot on their hands.
apprehensive
And I'm going to be
that
honest,
Iran
Trump
would
can't be
strike, and
just
Iran
wasting our
did
military,
strike.
just knocking off
Iran
one
did
supreme
strike
leader after another, after
UAE,
another, after another.
Bahrain,
It's just going to be a waste of
Kuwait,
time. They're going
Qatar,
to have supreme leader
except
after supreme
Oman,
leader after
of the
supreme leader, and you're just
G6
going to make the
GCC
people more
countries, except Oman
infuriated
that was
who support
facilitating peace talks. Every
the
other
agenda
country was
that we
targeted, Sandeep.
are the
Absolutely,
martyrs.
Gaurav.
And
And
it's
the
looking
fact is
bad.
that what Mayan
And
mentioned is
it's
that
already looking bad.
what
We
was
support Israel, who is
there
already
on this in
marked with
October
massive
2023. We
war
were
crimes.
looking at
Massive.
Saudi
All
Arabia
Iran is trying to
literally
do
a handshake
is
away from
supply nuclear energy
normalization
to the
with
region. And they're
Israel as
trying to
part of the
defend
Abraham
Gaza. That's
Accords.
all
And
they're
if
trying
that
to do.
handshake had gone through, you'd
Any
have
push
seen
for
a
nuclear
very,
warfare is
very big
because
chunk of the
the
Muslim world
interference
coming
America is
together,
causing. And to
recognizing
be
Israel.
honest,
And that
I
is
feel like
what Yahya
if you want
Sinwar's
to tell a
attack on the
country
7th of
to
October
dearm your
2023
nukes,
did, which is
then
to
America
disrupt
needs to dearm
the
their
progress,
nukes.
the slow
China
and
needs to
steady
dearm.
progress of the
North
Abraham
Korea needs to
Accords.
dearm.
And today,
Russia
I'm
needs to
not
dearm.
surprised
Everybody
that
needs to
Saudi
dearm.
Arabia is
You can't have
back on backing
something
these
and then
attacks
tell
on
somebody
Iran.
they
If
can't
Iran
have
is out
that
of the
same thing
picture, Gaurav,
because
you
I'm
have
allowed to
the
have it
final
so
piece
I
of
can
the
be better
jigsaw
than you.
puzzle
That it doesn't work.
falling
You're
into
gonna have
place, which
resistance
is Saudi
regardless.
Arabia, being on
Make
the
it make
same
sense.
page
But
with Israel.
I'm gonna
It's
continue to live
obviously
feed.
it's not
News is
on
coming out of the Middle
overt
East back to
as of
back
now.
at a
A
rapid
lot
pace.
of backroom juggling
Times
is
India is
on, as
dropping
the
bombs
Washington
like
Post
crazy
story
on what's
seems to
going on
suggest.
over there. I'm
The
gonna
fact
check
is
Al
that
Jazeera
the Saudi
right now. I think Al
Crown
Jazeera
Prince
is
Mohammed
catching
bin
up, or they're
Salman,
trying
the
to confirm what's
pragmatic
going on.
man,
But India is
has
on this
probably seen
like
the
hot
future of
cakes.
the
So
region, and he
keep
believes that
abreast.
it
I'm gonna
is in
try
his
to
interest to have closer ties with Israel,
release this
complete that
information. Hopefully, I'm the
mosaic of
first to
the
release it
Abraham
because I'm
Accords.
So
dropping
let me then take it
key
forward. The
snapshots
thought that will
on
move forward, should
Instagram,
this
no, not
happen,
Instagram, but
Mayan,
X,
remember when India
True
was
Social, and TikTok.
hosting the G20 during
And
India's
it's going to be
G20
coming out
presidency,
fast,
there
fast,
was a
fast. I'm trying to keep
conversation
abreast
around
because
IMEC,
right now
India,
American
Middle
news
East,
is
Europe
not
Economic Corridor,
keeping
and
up,
that was
or it's
in,
not coming
and
out as
that
fast as
passes
I'm
through the
bringing it.
Haifa
So
port.
I should be the
UAE,
first one to
Saudi
bring this
Arabia
news
were to
out
be
to
on board.
everybody
They
if
were
you
on
catch
board
it.
that time.
So stay tuned.
October 3,
I will keep the
October
live
7,
running.
2023 attack
Let's see where this
that
goes.
held it back. Do you see
Everyone
that
have a
moving
good
forward
weekend.
now, Mayan?
I wouldn't call it now, but I would call it that if we are successful, the United States and Israel, in eradicating the Iranian regime, if we see that there is more peace in the region and the effect of this war is successful, then certainly I believe that that would be something that would move forward. I also believe that you would begin to see the opportunity again for normalization. As I think, as he mentioned, it's not overt right now. It is covert discussions, things happening behind the scenes, which, by the way, we've had knowledge from, for quite some time that these discussions have been going on between the United States, Saudi Arabia, and Israel. Obviously, all of the different attacks that have taken place going back to June over the summer, when we had the first escalation, were in collaboration with Saudi Arabia. I'm sorry, we're just getting a rocket siren here in Jerusalem right now.
Absolutely, you stay safe. You stay safe. You get into a shelter wherever it's safe. I'll come back to you in just a moment, because I believe there's just been sadly a death in Jerusalem. There has just been a strike, a rocket strike in Jerusalem, and one person was killed in it. That's the information that's coming in. But Sandeep, as we wait for Geeta Mohan to join us and more analysts and experts to join us, that's a huge claim for Washington Post to make, that Saudi Arabia also advocated this time for strikes in Iran, which means the appreciation was, this is the best time to deal with the threat, whatever is the ramifications, whatever other ramifications. This is a time when the regime was at its weakest in Iran.
Absolutely, Gaurav. And the fact is that Saudi Arabia, there's no country that's as threatened by the rise of Iran, nuclear-armed Iran, than Saudi Arabia. Of course, if Iran were to go down the nuclear route, the primary target for its weapons would be Israel. The second target would be Saudi Arabia. And Prince MBS has said so publicly that if Iran went nuclear, Saudi Arabia would almost immediately reach for nuclear weapons and get them from wherever they can. And, so this is possibly MBS at his pragmatic best, realizing that a regime change in Iran is the best way forward for Saudi Arabia's rise in the region. He has a long vision, Gaurav, extending into the middle of the 21st century. He's one of the youngest leaders in West Asia. He's not even 40 years old. And going by the history of his family, they're very long-lived monarchs. They, rule till they're in their 80s and their 90s. So you're looking at a leader who's here in West Asia possibly until the year 2075, if all goes well. That's practically 3/4 of the 21st century. He's seeing the long road ahead. He's seeing the right thing to do, and possibly that he looks at the removal of the regime in Iran as one of the reasons that would benefit the rise of Saudi Arabia.
So what you would see at this point of time, Sandeep, is both Saudi Arabia and Israel advocated strikes on Iran. If this Washington Post report is true and the strikes are taking place, even as we speak, Israel has said 500 different locations have already been targeted in less than 24 hours. It's not yet 24 hours, and 500 different locations have been targeted across Iran. This shows the length and breadth, one, of military planning, two, military execution, and this is just phase one. Phase two is yet to begin. I quickly want to cut across to my colleague Anjali to get more details on the impact of Operation Decapitation.
Well, absolutely, Gaurav. Big blow to Iran as its supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has been killed after the strikes, the joint strikes by US and Israel. But it is not just the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who has been killed. In fact, several family members of the supreme leader have also been killed in these strikes, these coordinated strikes by Israel and United States. Let's take a look at who all from the Khamenei family have been killed in these strikes. So, of course, first and foremost, the supreme leader himself, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and then comes Khamenei's daughter, who has also been killed in these strikes. Along with Khamenei's daughter, Khamenei's son-in-law has also been killed, and in fact, the grandchild of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was also reported to be dead in these strikes, and the son-in-law was also dead. So not just Ali Khamenei, but the family members were also targeted in these airstrikes. Now, what does this show? This shows how precision strikes were carried out by United States and Israel, and how they had intelligence about the family members as well. So it was not just the supreme leader who was targeted by these two countries in these joint coordinated strikes, but also the family members. They made sure that the harm was also done to the family members. And as we just reported, that 5 family members have been killed. 4 family members and 5, including Khamenei, have been killed in these coordinated airstrikes by the United States and Israel on Iran.
So the aim very clearly was to take down the leadership, not just the leadership, the second line and the third line, and not just of the family. So Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was taken down. Apart from Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, once he was neutralized, along with top leaders, the aim was target multiple military locations. And I want to bring in Sandeep for more on this. Sandeep, this is a military operation that may have been planned not for months, but perhaps even years. And if you were to see some lessons that could not be implemented during the June 2025 strikes, those 12-day war, lessons were learned from it. This time, look at the expanse of the strike. 500 different locations from the northern tip to the southern part of the country. And Iran is a vast country. Their nuclear sites were targeted earlier. Their missile sites have been targeted. Military leadership, brigade headquarters, corps headquarters, religious, where their centers are, political leadership, religious leadership, all taken out in the first salvo.
Absolutely, Gaurav. And there is a lesson in military planning over here. I would be very interested in knowing how the US and the Israeli Air Forces, they decided on the force planning, which aircraft would strike which target. That's the Israeli Air Force, the US Air Force, and the US Navy. Let's not forget the US Navy has substantial air assets there. And all of these strikes were carried out by all of these 3 forces in careful coordination with one another. As you mentioned, 500 targets across the length and breadth of Iran. Iran is a large country. Iran is half the size of India. It's more than 1 million square kilometers, Gaurav. And Israel, for our viewers, is a country that's as small as the Indian state of Manipur. You can imagine the dichotomy here, attacks being launched from a country that small, targeting a country that massive. Of course,
Sandeep, give me a moment. Jerusalem is again being targeted by Israel. Mayan, you're in a bunker. Mayan, tell us what's happening all around you.
And so I'm actually outside. I went back outside, but I am waiting within minutes. They've sent us the warning that the rocket rockets are targeted directly toward the center of the country, but also this time right at Jerusalem. Was just taking a break to go inside to inform the family that these sirens are about to take place and to make sure that they're near the bomb shelter. Everyone will be gathering within minutes. You'll probably hear it as the IDF continues to send out the warnings to get near the bomb shelters in order to be safe. They're saying that quite a large number of rockets have been targeted again towards central Israel and specifically at Jerusalem.
Right now, the manner in which, and man, whether these are reports in Israel or your conversations with the IDF, what was the planning like on areas to be targeted? 500 locations targeted in the first salvo.
Look, I mean, and they've been planning these attacks, I think, for actually decades. And certainly in the last month since June, Israel has been putting together a plan. We knew that there would be another escalation with Iran after the June war. And they've been making the list of targets, I'm assuming, since then. Israeli intelligence, as you know, is some of the top intelligence in the world and was able, therefore, to assassinate Khamenei because Israel knew exactly where he was. As well as, if you recall, yesterday, the IDF explained that they targeted 30 Iranian leaders in 30 seconds. Now, not everybody on the list was actually assassinated at that time. And there are certainly second and third and fourth rounds of Iranian leaders that are expected to be eliminated, similar to what you saw in previous escalations, not with Iran, but with other terrorist entities earlier, during the last 2.5 years of war.
Indeed. So 500 targets taken down already. You have other targets that will be taken down. Sandeep, all of this would indicate that both Israel and the United States of America, they're moving to a plan. The number of visits that were made at the level of military commanders, foreign ministers. More breaking news coming in. Multiple sirens go off in Jerusalem, in Israel, and these sirens are going off. One person has reportedly been killed in a drone strike. So despite the best systems, the Iron Dome, the David Sling, THAAD, everything may have been in place, fighter jets in the air, Abraham Lincoln deployed for offensive role, Gerald R. Ford for a defensive role, but somewhere down the line, that one drone seems to have come in, and it seems there are multiple others. There are some interceptions that are taking place in Haifa. That map on your phone, Mayan, can you show us where are all these sirens going off in different parts of Israel? And unfortunately, I believe one person has been killed.
Or lightly injured. Those happened from strikes that happened overnight. There are sirens right now wailing, not actually where I'm standing in Jerusalem, though I expect those to come quite soon. I'm hearing the interceptions overhead. I'm not sure if you can hear that, but I am listening to the interceptions as I stand here. Sirens are going off in central Israel, central northern Israel, and in Jerusalem area right now as we speak, but they've been going off throughout the country. We've seen them up north, down south, in Eilat. And again, the strongest strikes where we've actually seen direct hits have taken place more in central Israel, in the Tel Aviv area. Iran generally targets Tel Aviv not only because our military headquarters are located there, but also because it is in some ways, the heart and soul of the city of Israel. There is the most populated area outside of Jerusalem. Generally speaking, until now, there has not been as many attacks toward Jerusalem, and that is because so many of the holy sites are located in the holy city of Jerusalem, and there was always some fear of hitting the Temple Mount or other areas like that. It does not appear that that is worrying the Iranians this time around. We've had here in Jerusalem nearly as many sirens as in Tel Aviv, and as you mentioned, some missiles do get through. The Iron Dome is more than 99% effective. We have the new laser systems, and we have upgraded all of our missile defense systems, but that doesn't mean that the situation is foolproof. Therefore, the Home Front Command requires that Israelis get near their bomb shelters. They give us a warning about 8 or 10 minutes before when Iran launches the missiles, and Israelis are asked to go near the bomb shelter, and then minutes later you start to hear the sirens and need to bunker down.
Absolutely. Man Hoffman, not everywhere do you get 8 to 10 minutes. When we were reporting from the northern part of the country, Haifa, and when Hezbollah was firing, in some places closer to the border, we had less than a minute to run to a bunker. But for the benefit of our viewers, can you explain that entire process? How Israeli weapon locating radars track this from the moment the rocket is launched to to the moment its likely trajectory, which will be intercepted, which will not be intercepted? What is the way the system works?
Yes, of course. And I think it's important what you pointed out. There's a difference between where the missiles are launched from, right? When Hamas launches a missile at Israel from the southern border, the people that live in the Gaza envelope or near the border sometimes have less than a minute to get to shelter. And therefore, there are even different kinds of sirens. Here you'll hear a wailing siren here in Jerusalem, but down south, when it's a Hamas rocket, what you'll hear is red alert, red alert, red alert, because they have to immediately enter a shelter because those rockets can strike down. But remember, the Hamas and the Hezbollah rockets, as you mentioned, are different than the Iranian rockets. Iran is launching ballistic missiles at Israel. These have incredibly large warheads. Judging by what we saw in June, one direct hit, even on a safe room in Israel, can kill the people inside. That is why many people are bunkering down in underground shelters, what we call miklats here. The way the process works is the Home Front Command, the army is watching whether or not a missile is launched from Iran, and immediately there is a basic warning. It has a different sound than the siren that takes over your phone. It's an automatic push that tells Israelis missiles were launched from Iran. Get ready, be near a shelter because you should hear sirens soon. Then they monitor the trajectory of those missiles to see where they're heading, and they're able to say, by and large, what direction. So central Israel, as I said right now, or Jerusalem. And then the sirens go off. When the siren goes off, depending on where you are, you really need to go immediately to
Mine, you
shelter.
stay safe. I'll come to you in just a moment. India Today gets you now the biggest scoop on Operation Roaring Lion of Israel. Now, media reports in the United States of America are reporting Israeli fighter jets dropped 30 bombs on Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's location. Khamenei was bombed while meeting top officials. Israel tracked Khamenei's meeting location. Information that's coming in. Okay, now it's coming in through the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal reports in detail on the joint plan by Israel and the United States to simultaneously target senior officials of the Islamic Republic of Iran and Ayatollah Ali Khamenei at the same time. The report says Israeli fighter jets dropped 30 bombs on the complex where he resides, where the meeting was taking place. According to the newspaper, Israeli and American intelligence officials had long been waiting for this joint meeting of the top political leadership and military leadership of the Islamic Republic so that they could all be targeted simultaneously. And this shows Israel had ground-level intelligence, perhaps people who were not very far from where this meeting was taking place, because a lot of these leaders were moving around, from what sources tell India Today, in unmarked cars, not in their long cavalcades. Israeli officials, according to this report, said intelligence officials finally identified 3 locations. There were 3 meetings that were taking place on Saturday. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's location was determined. The Wall Street Journal adds that the opportunity was considered unique, and that was the reason for the attack to be carried out in broad daylight. According to sources, Washington had precise intelligence indicating that the Islamic Republic was considering action against American targets and escalating that action. The attack order was issued by US President Donald Trump, which added urgency to the US president's decision. So very clearly, they saw multiple vehicles were moving in the direction of one compound. Satellite intelligence, ground-level intelligence, human intelligence, signal intelligence, all of it was collated according to reports, and there were multiple reports. And then America did not want to take a chance, neither did Israel, and they launched multiple strikes. 30 bombs were dropped, Sandeep. This is huge, that whatever was there was neutralized, Sandeep.
Well, Gaurav, we have to see that, the killing of Hassan Nasrallah by Israel on the 27th of September 2024, Israel demonstrated that it had the capability not just to detect and track the location of a leader who was believed to, stay underground, was rarely seen in public. They identified his location, Nasrallah's location, and then they targeted him with a series of weapon strikes. Again, these are the numbers that are being spoken about. Something like 20 or 30 bombs were dropped on Nasrallah's location, and he was living, as they say, in an equivalent of a 20-storied building underground. That's how deep under the ground Nasrallah was hiding. And it's very clear from what the details that we're getting from Supreme Leader Khamenei's assassination. Also, a similar strategy would have been used. The Supreme Leader is not seen in public for many years. He's believed to have been in an underground place. And the number of bombs that were dropped, Gaurav, it suggests that a similar strategy was used as the Israel Air Force had used with Hassan Nasrallah, which is to drop a series of these bunker-busting bombs, which actually go one after the other. They literally chip into the earth and they go deeper and deeper. They strike at the location and pretty much anything that is under the ground, 30, 40, 50 meters under the ground, is taken out. And it's quite possible, as details will emerge of this assassination of the Supreme Leader, it's quite possible that a similar strategy would have been used, Gaurav.
Oh, absolutely. Mayan, the bunker busters, the manner in which they were used. While we talk about the bombs, man, 30 bombs fired one after the other as they keep, going in. Hassan Nasrallah strategy works. Afghanistan is where what was known as the daisy cutters there, known as the GBUs here. Tell us more about intelligence gathering and the final operation that you've been able to pick up, Mayan.
I mean, what I'm understanding again is that there's certainly been intelligence gathering going on again for the better part of the last decades. And certainly since June, there's been a lot of work to understand what this attack would look like. I don't have any additional inside information than what you just reported just now, but certainly Israel has been tracking these leaders and their movements for as long as we can remember. We've known that Israel likely knew. It was just a matter of when the trigger would be pulled. And that was something that needed to be done in coordination with the United States, as you saw happen. Israel has wanted to be able to take out these terror leaders for quite some time because of the impact that they have on the region and certainly on the state of Israel. But we needed, again, to be able to do that with regional support. Israel could not act alone unless absolutely necessary. And here we saw that with U.S. support and collaboration, the leaders were able to be taken out.
30 bombs, 30 bombs. Now, there are two reasons why this kind of military hardware is used, Sandeep. One, to ensure that the entire area is sorted out. While these are PGMs, precision-guided bombs, at the same time, you want the impact, the kinetic impact, to ensure that the threat is taken out. And two, the manner in which it can penetrate deep, even if that building, the bunker is safe, let's say 10 feet or 20 feet underground. The bombs that have now been made, different bombs blast at different levels, they neutralize the threat at various levels, keep going in deeper to ensure the threat is taken out and the adversary cannot move.
Israel used against Hassan Nasrallah in September of 2024, they used the GBU-31, which is a precise laser-designated bomb. It has a warhead, it weighs almost a ton, and that has a massive explosive capability. And as you mentioned, various bombs go in and they explode at different levels. And this is exactly what they have seemed to have done there in 2024. Something like 80 bombs, 80 GBU-31s were dropped by IAF F-15s, Gaurav. They went deeper and deeper, exploding to a level of something like 30 meters under the ground, completely destroying that underground complex that Hassan Nasrallah was hiding in. It's quite possible that they knew the location of the Supreme Leader, who's also believed to have been hiding in a deep underground hideout. His location would have been identified, it would have been tracked, and they would have known precisely when to strike, where to strike it. And the fact is that the US and Israel have, they can roam the Iranian skies with impunity. They've used all kinds of aircraft there, starting from stealth aircraft, F-35s, F-22s, and of course the IAF's F-15 Strike Eagles, which are able to carry very, very high amounts of bombs. Something like 10, each F-15 Strike Eagle can carry something like 10 tons of ordnance, Gaurav. To give viewers an idea what 10 tons is, that's the weight of 2 MiG-21 fighter aircraft. That's the number of bombs that each of these F-15s can carry. So that's the...
And if we were to compare, in India, you only have the Su-30 MKI or perhaps the Rafale that can carry this kind of military hardware. Mayan, stay with me. Sandeep, stay with me. I want to quickly cut across to Tehran. Latest inputs coming in from Tehran. I want you to look at those images. It's a war cry for intikam or revenge. Avenge the killing of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. War cry of intikam on the streets of Tehran. That's the big story. You have a number of people who've taken to the streets. Watch those images for a moment. I want you to look at those images full screen. These are thousands of people who have now taken to the streets asking for intikam. Take a look. I want to quickly bring in Sandeep Punithan for more on this story. Sandeep, this is very, very worrisome. Should this escalate? Because those who were thinking that there would be a regime change operation, clearly easier said than done. There are a large number of people who support the regime, and that's what our reporters who travel to Iran, they've been reporting constantly.
Absolutely, Gaurav. You know, we discussed this yesterday as well. Iran's street cred in the Islamic street, irrespective of Shia or Sunni, is extremely high. But, you know, as we discussed as well, the fact is that the monarchies, these are not democracies, right? The will of the people doesn't really count that much. It is who controls these countries, and it's the monarchies. They are all, almost without exception, throughout the Gulf, you have monarchies. The will of the people doesn't really matter, right? And all of these countries, these Sunni Arab monarchies, they are all, to some extent, they are anti-Iran. But on the street, if you look at it, there's a dichotomy here. You have a country that is neither Sunni nor Arab taking up the biggest cause in the Sunni Arab world, which is the Palestinian cause. The Iranians have been literally calling for Palestine right from 1979, from the revolution. Possibly because this is, as I mentioned, it's a battle for the Islamic world. And the fact is that today, Iran's street cred, the fact is that you have the United States and Israel attacking another Muslim country in the holiest month of the Islamic calendar, which is Ramadan. And that is what has inflamed, Muslim sentiments across the world. You will see a lot of that in the next couple of days as well. And, the supreme leader has been assassinated in this holiest month. So, without a doubt, Iran's street cred, its popularity among the people, especially in the Islamic world, is possibly at the highest ever. But, Gaurav, it is a bit like Pakistan as well, if I can bring in that comparison. Imran Khan is the most popular leader in Pakistan today, but he is in jail. It is Asim Munir who calls the shots. He's very popular. Imran is popular among the people. But the will of the people in Pakistan doesn't count. It's the same thing with the Gulf monarchies as well, Gaurav.
There's another very big story that's coming in here on India Today, and that is Dubai under attack. Several explosions are being heard in Dubai. So even as we speak, an area which is considered amongst the safest is repeatedly being targeted. Loud explosions are being heard in Dubai, one after the other. Reuters is reporting one explosion after the other in Dubai. And these are not just drones, missiles are being seen. This is now being reported by wire agency Reuters. Missiles are being tracked as they move in the direction of Dubai. Pro-Iran protesters in Tehran continue to chant armed forces, revenge, revenge. But it's the civilian areas that are being targeted in the United Arab Emirates. In Dubai, Abu Dhabi was targeted earlier. And Sandeep, this is a cause for grave concern because Dubai, by and large, has been an island of peace, treated as a very major commercial economic center, and that is systematically now being targeted. Palm Al Jumeirah, Burj Al Khalifa, but now we are told there are other locations that are being targeted, including the
I knew
Abu
this
Dhabi
was
airport
coming,
yesterday.
but they're attacking and retaliating a whole lot sooner.
Dubai is an oasis of stability, peace, prosperity. It's
As
literally
you
a
see, they
Singapore
are
of West Asia. That is where money would come in because
I
it was
guess
seen as
until
an
they get the
investment
funeral
haven.
arrangements
A lot
for
of Indians have built their second homes. Some have actually permanently relocated to Dubai as well. It was seen as this island of tranquility in this very unpredictable part of the world. That's West Asia.
Right now.
And that's to the full credit of the rulers of UAE. They have summoned
this does not look good.
I'm
not saying we're in World War III because we still have to wait for Russia to retaliate.
What can you tell us what's happening?
This guarantees the Middle Eastern
good
war
morning. The road
has been
seems
reignited.
The road seems to be calm. We have not heard any explosions since
let's stay
midnight.
tuned. Let's see where this goes. But this is looking
at
bad.
1 a.m.
Like Trump
there was one explosion that was heard, and immediately we got this emergency message from the government, which we were awaiting. Because they do it like this, whenever there is an emergency, they leave this flash emergency message, and we got that message at about 1:05 a.m. And immediately after that, two more blasts were heard, and we could see these missile sort of things in the sky, and about 3 of them immediately after that.
Okay, so Reuters is reporting
after that, the panic situation was created, and all.
Reuters is reporting loud explosions are being heard in Dubai. Is that in a different part of Dubai where you are?
If I am audible?
Yes.
I am audible?
You are, go on.
Okay, and then after these blasts and the emergency message that we got from the government, and all the people were on the road because the panic situation was created and everybody was in a state and what is happening. And we could, even now, we could hear this, the jets in the sky, and knowing that the commercial planes are not operating, and I'm sure something is really going on. But yes, government is able to manage it, and being here, though it doesn't seem doesn't seem unsafe here in Dubai, but yes, something is happening and it can be felt. Government has also announced the schools and universities to have study from home, the home studies for next 2 days. That also, hints about whatever is going to happen. And then we have this another threat from Iran that the worst is still to come. So yes, we definitely again believe the government, and they are taking care of it. As of now, there is definitely the panic is there, but there is not much impact on the lives of the people, on the citizens, and no threats to the citizens and the residents of UAE.
No, but yes, was this not unexpected, Sanjeev? The fact that Palm Al Jumeirah was targeted, Burj Al Khalifa was targeted, the images that went viral on social media, Abu Dhabi airport, there were reports of a blast. Is Dubai taking this very calmly? Because images that you see, and when you speak to people, there is panic there.
Yes, this is something, we don't listen about, we don't see in Dubai. Dubai is supposed to be the most safe country, and rather UAE rather. And no, yes, this is definitely something that we don't expect and have never seen here in Dubai. And yes, something happening in the Palms and near the Burj Khalifa was really a concerning thing, because that is where most of the people look up to. And they are the heart of Dubai, both Business Bay where the Burj Khalifa is, and there's the Palms. definitely it is panic situation is there, but I am sure, while, the things are happening, we can feel the things are happening. The government is taking care. Panic won't help here. The social media has been, we are not allowed to make any videos, and they are making sure that, false news are not spread. And people are abiding that. I hope, the right information is going to everyone. And, if it is, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. I'm sure they are taking care. Things are in control. The panic is there. My individual panic is there. The community panic is there, but things are under control. It has not yet affected the life of Dubai. If I can just show you,
Yes.
the roads are still there. Being Sunday morning, we don't see much traffic. But people are on road. They are, people who work on Sundays, they are already on the road, and the life is okay. So panic is there, but again, people here, we trust the government. They are taking care of it. Thank you.
Okay, Sanjeev, for the moment, many thanks for joining me. I have Ambassador Prabhu Dayal joining us on the broadcast. I have General Meston with me on this special broadcast. Sandeep Unithan stays with me. Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, 500 sites have been targeted inside Iran in the past 20 hours plus, and Iran still has the ability to strike. There are some rockets and missiles that have been fired in the direction of Dubai. What do you make of the current situation?
Well, Gaurav, thanks for having me on your show. What I make of the situation is that it is playing out exactly as it was expected. Because Iran had said that if it comes an attack by the US and Israel, it is going to widen the conflict. Because if you recall, in June 25, when Iran was attacked, that is last year, it had attacked the US base in Oman. And that was a factor which had brought to an end the conflict. Now, Iran's strongest tactic is that if it itself is under attack, it should engulf the region. Now, the difference between June 2025 and now is that the Americans have built up a very strong naval presence. They have two huge warships, the USS Abraham Lincoln and the USS Gerald Ford, along with refueling tankers and 150 planes. So they don't really need to attack from the bases. They have their warships.
But they're even unable to protect, General Meston. They're unable to protect their bases, and this would raise serious issues about their air defense system. They have the Patriots, they have other military hardware in the place, including fighter jets in the sky, and yet bombs are falling. There's an explosion that's being heard in Doha even as we speak.
No doubt, Gaurav, that had to happen. Reason being because no system of air defense can be 100% foolproof. Obviously, it is generally 90 to 95% is the success rate. Some missiles apparently or drones will pass through and they will hit some targets. And at the same time, even if there is a debris of interception, that also can affect in some or the other way. But the fact of the matter is this will continue. But if Iran is doing all this, engulfing the entire GCC or the West Asia, what does it achieve strategically? That is the whole question. I think the entire Arab world, especially the GCC countries and many of these places where the US bases are there, they definitely now will go against Iran. And let us now remember that there are 90,000 Indians in the entire these countries, especially GCC countries. Beyond that, there are Iranians. There are so many Iranians in Dubai. Now, if they start fuming up passions of targeting these countries, targeting Dubai, which is just, I think, one of the best countries in the world, which is a role model. Nationalities of all countries are there. There is no religion and no all these kinds of problems. There is no religious divide here. So Iran is trying to engulf these regions, but it is going to backfire on them. And yesterday I heard one Indian reporter from Dubai. I think his statement made a great impact. He was some Karthik. He stated that imagine if Iran had nuclear weapons and tomorrow they would have targeted all these GCC countries. So the fact of the matter is that this perhaps may continue, but right now American arsenal has not been utilized in full. The American ships are deployed.
But this would, Sandeep, raise very serious questions about American military hardware and the trust that Gulf countries had placed in the United States. During the 12-day war, you had Qatar that was targeted, Sandeep, and Qatar and Saudi Arabia both were looking for a plan B. Sandeep, right now, you have multiple GCC countries, barring Oman. Virtually every country has been targeted, and this would raise serious questions about America's ability to protect them, willingness and ability both.
Yes, Gaurav, but there are two sides to this. The fact is that there are a limited number of missile interceptors that are available, right? They have to be lucky every single time. The Iranian swarm drones and missiles have to be lucky just once. You just need one missile or one drone to go through and strike a building or a target, and those are the visuals that we are seeing. There are possibilities that some of these would have been intercepted, but the ones that have gone through have caused great damage, very visible damage, and those images traveling across the world, convey the message that the UAE is not safe, Bahrain is not safe, the GCC countries are certainly not safe. They are all in the line of fire. So while it's possible that Patriots can bring down a number of these missiles, intercept them, they claim interception rates of 90%. There is a 10% chance that many of those drones and missiles could go through. And that is exactly what seems to have happened over here. And this is exactly what Iran is playing on. They have a massive stockpile of ballistic missiles, of drones, which they have been stockpiling precisely for a contingency like this. They have 5,000 ballistic missiles, 40 or 50,000 Shahid drones. It's a near inexhaustible supply of missiles and drones that Iran has.
Another big story that's coming in and very, very worrisome. More than 60,000 passengers remain stranded because of this conflict. Explosions are now being heard in Doha. There are explosions that were heard over Dubai. Look at those images that we put out on your television screen, and in a short while from now we will mark every location that is being targeted right now. A cause for very, very serious concern. Some plumes of fire that you see on the Dubai skyline. Late last night, you had Palm Jumeirah that saw debris falling on one building. Then you had Burj Khalifa that was targeted. There were other locations that were targeted. Dubai is considered amongst the safest places in the world. It stayed away from conflict. I want to bring in Dr. Tara Kartha, former director of the National Security Council Secretariat, joining us on the special broadcast. Dr. Tara Kartha, West Asia seems to be on fire this morning as we speak. The situation does appear extremely alarming in Dubai, in Doha, and several other locations, madam.
It is, it was a given, right? Once you kill Khamenei, then they will just hit out everywhere. As an aside, I can't understand why they want to target Khamenei at all. The guy was anyway half dead. He's 80 plus. He was sick. He had innumerable medical problems. And then you go and kill him. And surely you expected this. Any wargaming, any sensible wargaming would have anticipated this. And to hit Dubai? My God, those images are unbelievable. I can't imagine what would people are thinking of. This is a bastion for big money. It's a financial center, which is why places like Switzerland and all never targeted, because everybody's money is parked there. So now what is going to happen next? IRGC has threatened in this morning period, we can expect terror attacks also. They will 100%. They are going to launch even the Houthis. Expect Israel to have been targeted. And these countries, perhaps not. But what foolishness to target them. It was the most stupid thing Iran could have done. They would have got some kind of, break from the GCC countries, telling the US to back off. Instead, you go and target these people. I don't know who's taking decisions there.
Ma'am, more breaking news coming in. The United States has now showcased some of the deadly arsenal that was used to target Iran. War assets that were used to pulverize Iranian targets are now being displayed to American media. US aircraft carrier strike groups are now moving closer to Iran. So you have the Gerald R. Ford that's already deployed, and USS Abraham Lincoln that's deployed. So Abraham Lincoln was in the Persian Gulf, Arabian Sea, Persian Gulf region. It was aimed at carrying out offensive military operations. Gerald R. Ford was near the Haifa port or off the coast of Israel for the protection of Israel from incoming missiles. Now, the anticipation perhaps was that Iran would launch one attack after the other, multiple attacks directed at Israel. But what Iran appears to have done prima facie is not just target Israel, but launch majority of their outgoing missiles in the direction of the GCC countries, the Gulf Cooperation Council countries. And how have they done that? They've targeted United Arab Emirates, they've targeted Saudi Arabia, they've targeted Qatar, they've targeted Kuwait. They've targeted Iraq. The only country that they haven't targeted of the 6 GCC countries as of now is Oman, because Oman was the country that was facilitating talks between America and Iran. These weapons are now being showcased. The missiles that were used, Israel's gone on record to say 500 targets across Iran in less than 24 hours. One salvo after the other, one barrage after the other, precision strikes. And Sandeep, this would indicate that while 500 targets have been taken down, there are many targets from where Iran continues to strike back, and not from sea, from land.
Well, Gaurav, for the last couple of years, Iran has built up a very, very extensive network of underground facilities. They're fully aware of the fact that the US has bunker buster bombs like the GBU-31. They have been burrowing, tunneling underground. Many of these missiles, these weapons, these production lines have been moved underground. In fact, even large parts of the Air Force, whatever survives of the Air Force, have gone underground. That's where they're launching these missiles and these launchers from, these TELs from, and the visuals that you see on screen are of an actual launch. But those launchers, those trucks, those missile batteries would be all hidden underground, because Iran has been working extensively in the last couple of years to keep these out, disperse them precisely for a moment like this, a contingency like this, where they would be under massive air attack to prevent them from launching more attacks of cruise and ballistic missiles. And they have the ability to dart out of these mountain complexes, these cave complexes, launch their missiles and then retreat. So this whole thing of the whole Iranian strategy is of survivability.
Yes.
Over the last few months, they've realized that they have no control over their airspace.
And Justin, that's exactly what they're doing. They're using their TELs, their transport director launchers, shifting them to various locations, shoot, scoot, go to the next location, strike, move again. Now, this is a time when you have multiple satellites, aircraft, everyone's looking at them, firing constantly, and yet they have the survivability to strike and strike back.
Absolutely, Gaurav. Despite the US satellites and, of course, the Israeli satellites are having a very good 24 by hours reliable intelligence input, or real-life inputs are coming. But, we have to analyze what is the staying power of Iran in terms of these missiles. I agree with, that these are all underground, etc. And we have seen a number of visuals that all these tunnel networking has been done. But finally, at the end of the day, these missiles have to exit from these tunnels through some, silo. So they would now be monitored, and, if you can block the entry-exit in these mountains, I think a lot of things will be achieved. It is not physical destruction of the missiles. It is, rendering them incapable, but not allowing them to, use them. Coming on to multiple, rocket launchers, which are shoot and scoot, I think they are also being targeted. It will take time. But right now, US arsenal, entire things have not been used. Their bombers have not been used. There so many naval aircraft have not been utilized. Their ship-based missile like Tomahawk, etc. So they will be used, and of course the Israeli pilots, etc. They will be also targeting. So I personally feel that the way things are going on in the GCC countries, Iran is targeting. This is the moral responsibility of America to now take on these targets. Otherwise, they will lose their credibility in entire GCC countries or in West Asia.
Ambassador Dayal, when you look at the situation right now, very clearly there is no scope right now for anyone to dial down. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has been neutralized. 40 of his top generals and commanders have been neutralized. Will Iran be open for dialogue at this stage, or will Iran just hit back with whatever it has now that Mojtaba Khamenei has also taken over?
Well, we must understand what the Iranian game plan seems to be. It wants to attack the GCC countries because it wants them to intercede with the United States and stop the attacks. Because the GCC countries are not militarily equipped to handle such attacks. And as you all have been discussing and saying, the attacks are increasingly becoming more and more deadly. And the GCC countries do not want to get involved. But that is Iran's game plan. It wants to attack them so that they pressurize the United States, because otherwise the Iranian regime will be completely devastated. The
Sir,
US and
look
Israel
at these
will
images
continue.
that the United States has just released. This is of the US aircraft carrier strike group. It's not just the strike carrier, USS Abraham Lincoln in the Persian Gulf. You just saw those fighter jets that are taking off one after the other. But Sandeep, a number of cruisers, a number of destroyers and frigates in these waters. So that's the image of the fighter jets that are taking off, and at multiple locations, including on land in Israel. They have the F-22 Raptors, they have the F-35s, they have the FA-18s, you have the F-16s, multiple strikes simultaneously, and the Tomahawk cruise missiles, all of it going after Iran, one after the other, Sandeep.
Absolutely, Gaurav. You know, a carrier strike group is more than just an aircraft carrier. While the aircraft carrier, it's a platform, it's an airfield that launches up to 80 aircraft. It's got, very capable F-18 fighter bombers. But the strike group, the screens of the carrier, there are equally fearsome destroyers which are armed with over 100 missiles each. They are the screens of the carrier. They protect the carrier from, enemy missiles. But they also carry Tomahawk missiles of their own. The strike group has nuclear-powered attack submarines that are submerged, which carry Tomahawk cruise missiles. There are one or two Ohio-class, specially modified strike submarines, which are SSGNs. They are basically modified nuclear submarines which carry over 150 Tomahawk cruise missiles. So it's a massive force that each carrier strike group has in place. As you mentioned, one strike group, the Lincoln, is meant for attacking Iran. The other, that's the Ford in the Mediterranean, is meant to protect Israel from Iranian missile strikes and, of course, launch attacks of its own. So these are two very important force concentrations that the United States
And just look at
has
these
over
images,
here.
you're absolutely right, but will America need to bring in more fighting assets in this region? Remember in 2003, when Iraq war was happening, that time initially 3 and then another 3 aircraft carrier strike groups were brought in. A strike group, as Sandeep was just telling us, comprises the aircraft carrier itself. An aircraft carrier is a floating city. It's a floating warship with 5,000 soldiers on board. 5,000 sailors on board, have fighter pilots, 100 fighter jets. Apart from fighter jets, there were about 80-odd helicopters. Those helicopters are anti-ship warfare, anti-submarine warfare, anti-surface warfare. They scan the skies, they scan the surface, and they scan subsurface. You have ELINT, which is electronic intelligence aircraft. You have the E-2Cs, and these are turboprop aircraft that take off, carrier-based turboprop aircraft. They take off and then relentlessly they're circling the skies for electronic intelligence. They have jammers, they have suppression, they suppress enemy air defenses. So they carry out with the fighter jets, with the ELINT aircraft. Simultaneously, they're carrying out SEAD and DEAD operations, suppression of enemy air defenses and destruction of enemy air defenses with the fighter jets and with the missiles. And they're constantly guiding the eye in the sky, General Meston. All of that is simultaneously taking down everything that the enemy can fire at you.
Yes, Gaurav, very true. A lot of military assets have been deployed by United States and, of course, Israel for this action, and they are being released stage-wise, and they're being utilized stage-wise, I would put it. And the kind of arsenal, the military deployment in the Persian Gulf, what I'm surprised is that today the Iranian Navy is also deployed there. so far there seems to be no action of any kind in the naval battle, which I am a little surprised, because if you recollect, Khamenei had got paintings posted in entire Iran, showing that the ship is going down and so many US bodies are being packed and sent back. Nothing of this sort has happened. So why Iran is little reluctant? Because probably it realizes that if they start touching the US ships, I think then the entire onslaught will be solid on the Iranian naval ships and the naval fleet which is deployed there. So very surprisingly, until now, no ship has been even, merchant liner has been even captured or, hijacked by the Iranians. So that is a little surprising factor. But the fact of the matter is, I think now the US now will revive its strategy, because the intent would be to firstly protect the GCC countries. That is their moral responsibility. Otherwise, their credibility will be questionable. Number two, their intent will be to utilize the entire military arsenal to target their missile infrastructure in Iran, because that is, if they achieve, then the center of gravity, which is of the IRGC, is basically the missiles and the drones.
Yes.
If they can achieve this over a period of time, I think then things can be taken care of.
Dr. Tara Kartha, because you also see a situation where American President Donald Trump had said he will not only destroy the missiles, he'll destroy missile manufacturing capabilities. He will not just destroy the Iranian Navy, but it seems they were also going after ports like Bandar Abbas and others. In your appreciation, the manner in which 500 places have been targeted so far and Iran continues to strike, are we looking at not just days but weeks of operation to ensure it's not just decapitation but a total regime change operation?
I think with those attacks on GCC, it's just begun. I mean, the US is not going to spare these guys. They're going to finish off everything that they have. And that is what I think now they are going to have a formal declaration of war. If that happens, then you'll see everything on the table. By the way, one interesting fact, a very unusual pair, the Saudis and the Israelis both together got after Trump to attack Iran. I mean, I found it so strange. Number two, the Abraham Lincoln has come from the South China Sea. I'm wondering what's going to happen there. And number three, where is Pakistan's defense in all this? Pakistan is supposed to defend Saudi Arabia, right? I mean, that is the pact. What's happening there? So this is not over. There's a lot of, by the way, what Sandeep was talking about in terms of Iran's missiles, a lot of those parts came from China. It was done by these underground networks, Hong Kong, through Hong Kong, that was disrupted. Now there is nothing from China to be seen. So I think everybody is backing off because now they know this is war. No one wants to get in the way. So Iran is done. They are not going to be able to survive this. The problem is what will come after. But we'll come to that later. You're going to have trouble. You've created another state which is going to keep imploding and creating problems for the entire region.
Is that also your appreciation, Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, that Iran will continue to implode?
Yes, I entirely agree with what Tara Karta said, that this is just the beginning. And we can expect more and more developments to take place which will shake up the whole region. Let me mention from memory that I served as Deputy Ambassador in Iran, then Consul General Dubai, and then Ambassador Kuwait in rapid succession. And I observed how these Gulf countries were really scared of Iran's propensity and its capacity for mischief, because they were afraid that what the Iranians wanted really was the export of the Islamic Revolution. And this sort of policy of the Iranians was intended to topple the sheikdoms. So that is how they developed very close military and strategic relations with the United States. Now, Iran, by targeting the Gulf states, is trying to get them to pressurize the Americans, because otherwise the Americans and the Israelis will continue to hit them so hard that the toppling of the regime and the regime change is inevitable. The IRGC is strong, it has missiles, but when you compare it with the Americans and the Israelis put together, the IRGC's might is not at all sufficient.
Sandeep, there's a very important point that Dr. Tara Karta had just raised, something that you and I had discussed just a short while back, the fact that American media was reporting it wasn't just Israel, but Saudi Arabia that also shot strikes on Iran. And somewhere down the line, is this more about a Shia-Sunni clash, a Shia Iran and a Sunni Saudi Arabia, or it was Saudi Arabia's worst nightmare coming true? Should Iran either develop a nuclear weapon or continue to use Houthi rebels in Yemen to target their oil pipelines and then strike closer to Riyadh?
Well, it's Gaurav, the short answer is it's all of that and more. And the bigger, larger umbrella issue here is the battle for the leadership of the Islamic world. There are three countries in the fray. There's Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Iran, the three biggest Muslim countries in the region. If Iran is out of the equation, then automatically the Saudi Arabia becomes much stronger there. And like you mentioned, in the past, Iran is believed to have inspired the Houthis to carry out attacks on Saudi oil processing facilities, the Aramco facilities in 2019. The Saudis have not forgotten that. And they certainly wouldn't want a force as powerful as Iran, the IRGC, with the kind of cruise and ballistic missiles that it has, which continues to threaten all of the Gulf monarchies. That's a big worry for them. But having said that, Gaurav, I'm not sure if Saudi Arabia would want a complete collapse of Iran. They would want an extremely weakened Iran in some form or the other, which continue, but which is no longer a major threat to Saudi Arabia and the regions. And Saudi Arabia has, ambitions of its own. And that's all of Mohammed bin Salman's, reform movements of the last couple of years, over the last decade, in fact, have been about making Saudi Arabia great again, right? He is, to an extent, you can compare him to what he is to Saudi Arabia, what Trump is to the
when I look at it from India's perspective, I'm also looking at the India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor, where Saudi Arabia also plays a very critical role, as does UAE ambassador, as does Israel through the Haifa port, taking it to Europe. But before I come to that question, latest information that's coming in, Iran, the Chabahar port has not been targeted. Bandar Abbas may have been, but Chabahar has not. India today, through open source intelligence fact check, can get you details. Satellite images show very clearly that the Chabahar port has not been targeted. India was operating this flagship Chabahar port. We've invested very heavily here. Though because of American sanctions, India did have to pull back, had a 6-month leeway to pull out of Chabahar. But that's very important, not just for India, Iran, but India's access to Central Asia and to Afghanistan through the Chabahar port. General Mestrin, you've been a defense attaché in Afghanistan, and the Chabahar port was actually a lifeline when Pakistan blocked land route supplies to Afghanistan from India. Chabahar port was used to provide wheat, rice, medicines, all essentials, and it's so important for our access to Central Asia.
It is of great strategic significance and relevance to India, and there is no denying. And in fact, if tomorrow there is stability and peace in the entire Middle East, it is of great advantage to India, because as you highlighted, the IMEC corridor is also of great strategic significance to us. And therefore, not only the Shia-Sunni aspect, I think more than that, it is the ideological difference. The GCC countries basically want peace, prosperity and development, and you have seen the radical reform within Saudi Arabia, and therefore all these countries today are looking for development. And therefore they were all on board on IMEC corridor, and we know so many Indians today, 90 lakh Indians are working in these areas, and they feel no discrimination of any kind. Now let us look at the ideology of Iran. Iran has been just talking of death and destruction, and talking about that Israel will cease to exist from the world map. So this has been their ideology, and today let me tell you, at the end of the day, when this war is over, GCC countries will be very, very happy, because the long-term threat from Iran will go away. And yes, Tara has very rightly pointed out that there will be an implosion in Iran, but that is to their disadvantage. And I think the people of Iran, through their democratic process, yes, it will take time. If they have to now look forward to the development and prosperity of the country, maybe to 1979 pre-era, of course, not that they will bring the Shah.
Sir, give me a moment. Dubai in the line of fire. There are some fresh explosions that are also being heard in Doha. I want to bring in Ritukant Ojha. Ritukant Ojha is CEO of Proact Luxury Real Estate, who joins us from Dubai. Ritukant Ojha, welcome. What can you tell us about the situation in Dubai right now?
Namaskar, Gaurav ji. Gaurav, two important things. One is, of course, there have been missile attacks and there have been missiles coming in, but a lot of them have been intercepted. A lot of what we see are debris, and of course, there is a part of drone that fell down on the entrance of Fairmont Hotel yesterday, and we saw the fire and everything. Then there were being attempts to target the ports and some of the hotels as well. Honestly speaking, most of it has been very controlled by the UAE government. That has been intercepted. The point number two, Gaurav, is that, as we always see, there again, a lot of, AI videos and fake videos start coming up.
But what's the current situation? Is there panic? I'll come to those fake videos and all in a moment.
Yes.
Here on India Today,
Sure,
we only broadcast what is correct, Ritukant Ojha. What I want you to explain to us, the current situation right now, because there was a Reuters report that spoke of some explosions being heard and some missiles that were being tracked that had been fired from Iran in the direction of Dubai. So is that leading to tension and panic?
Yes. So first of all, I'm confirming that there were, as a resident, I am confirming I stay in a high-rise apartment. I can see almost 37 floors. So I confirm that there have been missiles coming in, but I'm also confirming that they have been intercepted. We have seen that happening live. So that is for sure. As far as panic is concerned, yesterday when all of this was happening, there were normal traffic. I was meeting my client. Today morning I was walking around with Poodle, and just let you know, I'm just few kilometers away from Jebel Ali Port, which is a lot of media is saying that's one of the key targets. So there have been some parts of missiles that have fallen, debris that has fallen. That is definitely happening. The region is in a war zone, so that remains a reality. No taking away from there. But as far as the panic is concerned, I don't see any panic when I'm moving around, when I'm walking with my.
What is the advice that has been given to you by the administration in Dubai? I believe there's an advice that's gone nationwide to in Abu Dhabi, in Dubai, everywhere.
Yes. So we have been asked to stay alert, number one. Number two, we have also asked to stay away from glass facade. I don't know if it is, you can see in the backside. So there are a lot of glass facade that you see in the apartments here in Dubai. So we've been asked that just in case there is an attack, of course, people should stay away from the glass, more on the wall side of it, so that just in case some splinter, something hits, people don't get hurt. So that has been definitely.
Stay with me, Mr. Ojha. I want to quickly bring in Brahma Chilani, one of India's foremost voices on strategy and security, joining us on this broadcast. Professor Chilani, your reading of the situation on day 2, Israel officially said they've targeted more than 500 locations inside Iran. President Trump has indicated that these attacks will go on for weeks, if not days. And yet Iran has the ability to strike back. Your reading of the situation right now.
I don't know what to say. Like, Saudi Arabia is catching holy hell. Saudi Arabia had nothing to do with this, but at the same time, Saudi Arabia is kind of in the middle. They're kind of neutral, so they don't really support Israel, and they don't really support Iran entirely. But then behind the scenes, they do business with America, even though they don't 100% support us either. So since the princes have showed support on a business level with Trump,
are the target countries destabilized?
It's just going to tear Dubai up.
Libya became
well,
a failed
let's
state
just
and
say,
remains a failed
whoever,
state.
well,
But once a country has been destabilized
Ahmad
because of American
is probably
military
calling the shots
intervention,
on the military
then
scale.
the region itself
So
suffers. There is instability in the wider
this is
region. For example, if
causing
you look at
the
Libya,
Saudis
Libya now is a
to
threat
catch
to the entire region.
backlash.
Absolutely. I mean, parts of North
And
Africa are deeply,
right
deeply
now,
threatened, and Egypt
from what
is
they were
feeling the
saying,
pain, as you rightly point out.
I
But
think it's
here,
Abraham Lincoln is now moving
Saudi
in
Arabia
closer.
was on board
But
the regime change operation,
this
or at least the bombing of Iran. American
this
media
is
is reporting
bad. I
that. How
feel
do you
sorry
see
for the
that, Professor
Saudis.
Chilani, before I bring
They
in our
were
other
trying to
guests into this
play
conversation?
the negotiators
Well, that
between Ukraine
underscores
and
Saudi
Russia,
Arabia's
mediators between Israel and Iran and
ambitions to
Gaza.
be the
It's
real,
just, but I get it
the top
because
dog in the Islamic world.
it's like
And that
this.
also explains why
If
Saudi Arabia
America
signed
wants to
this mutual
support
defense
Israel,
pact with Pakistan.
and America's
Saudi
allowing
Arabia
Israel to
looked at
attack Iran for supporting Gaza,
as its geopolitical
then
rival,
in their
and
eyes,
cutting
they're
that
looking at,
geopolitical
well,
rival
Saudi
to size
Arabia
is what
supports America
the Crown
on the
Prince
business
wanted.
level. Plus,
But I think this
I
will
think they
also come
wanted
back
a
to
seat at the
haunt
table at
the
the,
Crown Prince, because
what is it?
encouraging a U.S.-Israeli war on
Conference of
Iran,
whatever
on
Trump's got
another
going
Muslim
on, the
country,
table of
will not
peace,
make
whatever.
him
I think
popular
when the
in the
princes
Muslim
have a
world. In
seat,
fact,
that just looks bad.
he has taken a
So
major risk,
I'm just going to attack
even
you.
though he thought that what his
You're going to allow Israel to attack me. I'm
efforts
just
to
going to attack
persuade Trump to start the
Saudi
war, he
Arabia.
thought will
And it's kind
remain
of like
under
tit for
wraps.
tat.
But now that it's out in the
So
open,
Gaza got
he is
destroyed
now
by Israel. So
open to
Iran's going to attack
major
and
political
destroy
risks,
the beautiful
even
lands of
within
Saudi
his own
Arabia and
country,
Dubai.
because we
And,
should not forget
like I said, this
that
is a
no
mess.
monarchy
The United
in any
States did
Gulf
not
state
plan this out.
is
They should have
secure.
known they were
Every
going to have
monarchy is
retaliatory
fighting forces
effects from
within
this.
its own
They
borders,
should have known.
as well as
Just hit,
forces from
strike, quick shit.
forces that
It
are
doesn't. It
external,
never
that are
works.
seeking to
It
destabilize
never works.
monarchies. And I
You
think for
can't
Saudi
bully
Arabia,
countries like this.
this
There's
kind
going
of
to be always retaliation.
encouragement
Always.
to the
So
Americans and to the Israelis
we just
to
have to
take
keep
on
watching
Iran
and see how this plays out.
and to wage war against
Um,
Iran,
I
even though
knew
it's a
they were going to
Shiite country,
retaliate, but I
not a
thought they
Sunni
were going to
country.
strike Israel.
Yet it
But then again,
it
they
not only
probably
exposes the
wasted a lot of
divisions in the
missiles on
Islamic
Israel,
world,
so they
but
probably
also
re-strategizing how to get Israel.
presents Saudi Arabia as
fact
Israel
now remains,
is
do we
probably
see
going to
this more
wait for the
as
United
a
States to make a
conflict
call
in
on
terms
this. We
of
haven't heard from our
rockets,
president yet,
missiles,
which is
and
not
drone
surprising. I
attacks on
bet they're
GCC
sitting in their
countries,
little war
on
room in
Dubai, on
Mar-a-Lago
Abu Dhabi,
embarrassed. I
on
know they're
Doha,
embarrassed.
Qatar, or Kuwait?
I
Or do
just
we
put
see
out
this
the
more as
headlines.
terror
They have
attacks in
2
those
new
countries?
leaders,
Sandeep,
and they are
what are you
live in
picking up?
action.
How long?
So we'll see what's
What
going
is
on
Iran's
as
staying
the
power
day
given the
goes by
current
on their
scenario?
side of the world. It's pretty much sunset
Iran
here,
can stay for a couple
9:19.
of
It's
days.
8:49 a.m. on their side of the world.
They have the rocket
They have
missile
another
forces
good
that can see
12 to,
them through the next
they
couple
can
of
go
days. The
another
regime
24
is pretty
hours. So
resilient, but as
I'm going to stay
Professor
on
Chelani
this news.
mentioned, the fact is that they
But we
cannot
have
take
just stirred the
this for
hornet's
several
nest in the Middle
weeks.
East and made
The
things
regime
worse.
is at
The
its
Khamenei's family
weakest
is
since the
still in power,
1979 revolution,
and the
today it's a
son is
matter
going
of
to take
how long
revenge.
how much
And our
stamina do they
government should
have
have
to
known that
actually
was
see
coming.
this
One way or
very
another, they were going to have a
unprecedented
hand in
situation of
revenge.
airstrikes on them?
One way or another.
Gaurav, the kind of decapitation strikes
So
that we
everybody
are
stay tuned.
seeing
This
on
war
Iran today,
has
it has
just escalated
possibly
a lot
never
faster
happened
than
on any
President Trump
country
anticipated. So I
after
don't know
the
what
Second
type of,
World War. And even in the Second World War, we saw those
win-win he was
isolated
looking
incidents
for,
of
because
one
he just
Admiral
made
Yamamoto being
himself
taken
look like
out
an
by
L.
the U.S. Air Force, U.S. Army, Air Force. But to see so many people being taken out, 40, 50, these kind of decapitation strikes are the stuff that we've seen in cinema or in novels, but never seen it in
or
real
even after
life.
Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein was taken down, arrested in the manner in which he was, or Colonel Gaddafi, the way he was taken out. But I want to understand the entire regime change operation, but the apprehension in Dubai right now. Ritukant Ojha, as somebody who lives in Dubai, works in Dubai, if this lasts longer than it does, as some argue, it may last weeks, hopefully not months. Will it adversely impact life in Dubai, work and business in Dubai, money flow in the region? And is there an apprehension more of rocket attacks, missile strikes, or terror attacks?
See, Gaurav, when something, you have been covering war for a very, very long time, you do understand when things like these happen. Of course, there is a certain level of fear, and investors also sometimes, fear about what's going to happen, and they become careful. So I think there'll be wait and watch for next few days. But as I gather from the people that I speak to, I feel that this is only going to go down slowly. right? Go down in the sense the attacks, the intensity, everything. I think because the supreme leader is no more, I think US would have planned it very well. It seems so within 24 hours they have killed the supreme leader. We in Dubai feel that the things will start becoming normal in under 24 to 48 hours. That's what we believe very strongly.
24 to 48 hours is your appreciation, General Miston. As a military analyst, would that also be your assessment? The pace of the American strikes and Israeli strikes, 500 plus targets, 40 top leaders taken down. Second run, and the manner in which that Israel was able to take down the leadership of Hezbollah. Moment the second rung of leadership came out, they neutralized them. Third rung came up, neutralized them. No longer a potent military threat. Are they using the same tactics in Iran?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the pace of operations by the United States and Israel will be increased further because they have to give protection. And protection does not mean, giving only air defense cover. Protection means targeting these sites from where these missiles are being launched, and that would be the priority aim. Number two, you just spoke about the terrorist attacks in, is there a possibility in GCC? I rule out that. I'll tell you why. Because the intelligence network in the GCC countries, even if you have seen in Dubai, etc., it is very good, and they don't want anyone radicalized there in their country. If you see, there were some Pakistanis, they were repatriated from Dubai back to their country, and today even their visas are not being granted very easily. So Dubai and the GCC countries are those countries which want development. They don't want radicalization, and therefore if Iranian tries, firstly, I doubt any Iranian, there are a large number of Iranians in Middle East, including in Dubai. I doubt that Iranians will get into all this, because if they get, then I think the Iranians will be repatriated back to the country. So situation today, I definitely agree with the previous panelists that things perhaps may ease off once the strategic aim of degrading the missile potential of Israel and
Professor Chilani, there's breaking news that's coming in. Reuters is reporting multiple explosions being heard across GCC countries. Your appreciation, if there are blasts or missiles that are being fired in the direction of Dubai, if there are missiles that are being fired in the direction of Doha or Abu Dhabi, will this lead to GCC countries seeking even harsher action and harder action against Iran?
Are you asking me?
Yes, Professor Chilani.
Gaurav, these Iranian ballistic missiles and drones are being fired at US facilities in the Gulf states. I don't think I've seen any reports indicating that Iran is targeting civilian infrastructure in the Gulf countries. It is clearly seeking to target the military, the US-run military infrastructure, and sometimes the intercepts of the incoming Iranian missiles are creating explosions with the debris falling on hotels and civilian facilities. But I haven't seen anything that indicates that Iran is directly trying to target civilian infrastructure in the Gulf countries. But I think what Iran is doing is what it had threatened to do in case war was waged against Iran. So Iran is living up to its own word that it would actually target US facilities across the region. That is precisely what it is doing. And we saw from the 12-day war last year between Israel and Iran that as the war progressed, Iran became more proficient in actually penetrating Israel's air defenses and actually inflicting more and more damage as the war progressed. So actually,
sir, give me a moment, and I want you also, Professor Chilani, to look at these images that you're just putting out on your television screen. First, we put out images that came in from Tehran. These are images that are coming from Isfahan. Isfahan is a very crucial city or region inside Iran. Two images on your television screen: cry for revenge on the streets of Tehran and cry for revenge. Intiqam is the cry that's going out in Isfahan. Crowds have gathered to mourn the death of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader. Large crowds of people in the streets of Isfahan saying, Intikam, intikam, avenge these killings. Just a short while back, there was a statement that was put out on Iranian television that said, the great nation of Iran mourns Hazrat Imam Ayatollah Khamenei ascending to the highest heaven in the holy month of Ramadan. That's the statement that was put out just a short while back. But I want to understand, Professor Chilani, these cries of intikam, mourning on the streets. America said this is the best time for the people of Iran. Take to the streets and uproot the regime. It seems there are a large number of people who even support the regime, not just in Tehran, but in Isfahan, in Qom, and other parts of the country. How difficult would a regime change beyond decapitation be for the Americans and Israelis?
Gaurav, there's never been a case where Western air power has succeeded in bringing about regime change in any country. As you know, Western powers have militarily intervened in a number of countries over the last half a century or more. But there has not been a single case where air power alone has managed to bring about regime change. Second, and I think this is important, that revenge is deeply embedded in the Shia culture, just as revenge is deeply embedded in Middle East Sunni culture. Injustice in one generation is carried forward to future generations. So this is a cycle that has begun with the Ayatollah Khamenei's assassination.
Okay.
Mark my words.
Sir, stay with me. There's breaking news that's coming in from the United States of America. US President Donald Trump has warned Iran, do not retaliate. American President Donald Trump says, we will hit Iran hard if Iran even thinks of revenge. American President says, we'll hit Iran hard if there is revenge taken. So clearly, as was the apprehension, the killing of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei will not beat Iran into submission, or the 40 top leaders who've been taken down in the past 20 years, that will not lead to Iran submitting. There will be a counter strike. Some of it is happening, and as Professor Chilani was just telling us, that this is in the psyche not just of Shia Muslims but also Sunni Muslims. And I want to understand a little more from you. As President Trump's reaction comes in, he's also apprehensive that there could be strikes. But these strikes, in your view, would these be terror attacks or would these be rocket strikes and missile strikes, sir? Professor Chilani.
Iran's response will be asymmetric. First, these missile strikes, you have to understand that Iran doesn't have an air force and its air defenses are virtually non-existent. So it relies primarily on ballistic missiles and drones as weapons of deterrence, as well as weapons of offense. So once its military industrial capabilities are degraded through sustained US and Israeli bombing, Iran will resort to other asymmetric means to exact to wreak vengeance. I think this cycle of attack and revenge is a cycle that will not end in this generation, because Ayatollah Khamenei's killing is something that will not be forgotten by Shia Muslims. And I think the Americans under Trump have started a fresh cycle of attack and retribution that will go down. That will be carried forward to new generations. And I think that for American policy, starting a fresh war in the Middle East appears to be contrary to America's own long-term interest, because it appears that Trump has not learned any lesson from past history, from America's own record.
Unless they'll take control of the oil, which was always their intention. unless that's all about oil. But for a moment, I want to stay on revenge and avenging this. General Meston and Sandeep come in on this. Ambassador Dogra also joins us on this special broadcast, as does General Kulkarni. Welcome, gentlemen. And these are people who know the lay of the land, who've served on ground or in that region. General Meston, America says, do not hit back or we will hit back very hard. Is America apprehensive Iran could launch more than just missile and drone and rocket strikes?
See, the concern for America definitely would be terrorist attack. Now, where is the terrorist attack likely? I think it can happen any part of the world where, US citizens are there. What options could be there? Capturing some of them, taking them as hostages, that is one scenario. Number two, some lone wolf attacks is possible, including in the United States. You have seen the CIA had done an analysis that there are a lot of Iranian people who are ready to hit Trump. So this kind of things are a likelihood. But now what is the remedy for that? I think the intelligence network will have to be activated all over by the US setup. But yet, one or two odd attacks cannot be ruled out. But how long this cycle will continue? Terrorism also has a level where, next point I would like to highlight is, if they have to resort to use terrorist attacks somewhere, they require some training, they require a lot of equipment, they require, like Osama bin Laden was, trained and had, given sanctuary in Pakistan. So what I'm trying to highlight is perhaps in the near picture, small-scale terrorist attacks is a likelihood. Okay. But big-scale terror like 9/11, I somehow feel it is too...
General Meston, give me a moment. There's more breaking news that's coming in. And this is Iran's big warning to American President Donald Trump. I want to go on this big story. Iran has warned not just American President Donald Trump, but Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Iran has told both the United States and Israel, you've crossed the red line. You will pay for it. Iran is telling the United States, you will pay for what you've done, and that Iran will continue to chart and stay on course of the path set by Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Iran will continue on his path. Sandeep, how do you look at this?
Well, Gaurav, this is a sign of Iran doubling down. They're not, taking this lying down. They have decided to continue with the struggle, and they're not giving up in a hurry, Gaurav. And if there was any apprehension that Iran would fold up after that wave of airstrikes, that's clearly not the case. Iran has decided to fight the long haul, fight this through. They may not have many friends, allies, supporters, but they've decided to fight this to the end. So it's a question of regime survival now, Gaurav. And again, this is something that they have rehearsed over a couple of months now. They've prepared for this very day, and that's the reason they've put in all these contingencies into place. They're not running away, Gaurav. It's very clear. They're unlike what happened in 1979, where the Shah realized that his time was up after several months of public discontent. He literally folded up and he fled. By January of 1979, he was gone. But that clearly is not happening here in Iran in 2026. The regime has nowhere to go, literally. It is so deeply entrenched inside Iran that, the change that will have to come from within, Gaurav. And the fact that the IRGC is what it is today, and all of these statements, that all, portends to a very gloomy future for the region. The fact that you will not be able to take out the Iranian regime through airstrikes. It is going to be as, resilient, survivable, and it will continue in whatever shape or form, Gaurav.
Absolutely, Sandeep. That's a very pertinent point you're making. Let me also, bring into this conversation. I want to see our guests on the broadcast for a moment. If I can just... Yes, Sandeep Unithan is with me as we track the story that Iran will continue to strike. Sandeep, bring us more details of what is being said, the manner in which Iran is saying that it will strike back, that there will be consequences, Sandeep.
Well, Gaurav, they've a wide variety of options of retaliation. One is, of course, through the drone and cruise missile strikes and ballistic missile strikes that they have been launching across the region. The other, of course, is the axis of resistance that they have cultivated over the several decades now. Hezbollah, the Houthis, Hamas, whatever's left of Hamas, the Kataib Hezbollah in Iraq, the Shia, other Shia militias all across the region, all of them would be encouraged to rise up and attack targets of opportunity. The other one is, of course, the economic war against the Straits of Hormuz. That's a very, very critical jugular. It is literally an energy jugular of the world, where 20% of the world's oil and natural gas passes through that narrow channel, which is completely dominated by Iran. And this is again a scenario they've prepared for mining.
You read out this message about the embassy extends heartfelt condolences to His Holiness Imam Mehdi, to the Muslim Ummah and to the great nation of Islamic Republic of Iran and to all freedom-loving nations of the world. Undoubtedly, the grave consequences of this unforgivable crime shall fall directly upon criminal US regime and the occupying Zionist regime, who bear full responsibility for the resulting consequences and repercussions. Ambassador Dogra, how do you look at this message that comes out of Iran that there will be consequences for the United States of America and for Israel?
Well, it shows firstly resilience. It also shows that Iran was prepared for this eventuality, that the supreme leader would be killed, and along with him some other important personals. Iran has that lineup ready, and Iran also has its game plan ready, because Iran was expecting America and Israel to do some such thing. The other thing is Iran learned a lot of lessons, and I mean technological lessons, from the first conflict. That is why their missiles have had nearly a free passage into Israel. There's a huge amount of censorship by the West, America and Israel combined. That's why the full details are not coming out. For example, one of the largest desalination plants in Israel was hit yesterday, affecting 20% of its desalination capacity. There are some reports that some of the American ships, warships, have also been damaged. There are reports that all across the Gulf, American assets have been damaged and hit quite seriously. So yesterday, it was, whether it was an even match or not, the future events will disclose. But the fact is that Iran certainly received a blow in terms of its supreme leader, but otherwise it was more or less an even day for both sides. Iran is determined. Iran cannot be cowed down by Trump's threats. These were expected, and the maximum Trump can do is to launch more missiles into Iran. But Iran is a large country. The other thing is, unless USA and Israel decide to take the nuclear option, Iran will not bend down.
So, General Kulkarni, what is your military assessment of the situation right now? The manner in which we see people take to the streets in Iran, Isfahan, Tehran, there are thousands on the streets saying intakam. Is this kind of, in your appreciation, something that could fuel up the fire even further? Do we see more terror attacks in times to come, or do we see more military operations?
Gaurav, is that for me?
Yes, General Kulkarni.
See, Iran, well, in an old civilization, we do feel bad to what's happening in Iran, to Iran's sovereignty. There's no denying the fact. But Iran's words will not match, because they do not have the military resources nor the capacity to match the American resources and the Israeli resources, resulting in more and more losses of Iran. Khamenei dead, defense minister dead, IRGC top commander dead, the missile sites badly hit, nuclear incapacitated, Tehran hit, all the cities hit. That's the kind of destruction caused. Much that the destruction has been caused by Iran on USA, but those are damages, not total destruction. But Iran's under tremendous. Imagine Khamenei dead, 40 days of mourning. A religion which was facilitate to become a strong rallying point, in turn in Iran itself has become a dividing point. So all those who are followers of Khamenei are definitely mourning and feeling bad. Everybody feels bad. Obviously, the religious leaders no more. But the fact is that there are a sizable number against also, with the kind of resources that Iran probably has shot whatever it has. Much that they may say Karam Shah, Sijil has still left 2,000 kilometers. But all said and done, The USA and Israel have come fully prepared. They knew exactly what was happening. They've hit Iran very badly. And at this point of time, it's not the time for Iran either to retaliate nor for Americans. Americans must use this opportunity of 40 days mourning announced by Iran for a talk, a dialogue, a facilitation. Because
I'll come to the dialogue bit in just a moment, because when you're looking at the current situation right now, Mayan, you've been in a bunker virtually every other minute, and Israel is constantly facing a barrage, or at least apprehensions of a barrage. What can you tell us about the latest situation that you're picking up in Israel, in Jerusalem?
For sure. Just a few minutes ago, we were actually told we were able to leave our shelters. We've been, as you mentioned, going into shelters throughout the night. Last night was one of our first deadly attack. One of the rockets that made it through into central Israel, hitting down into 2 different apartment buildings in the center of the city in Tel Aviv. 1 person was killed, a woman in her 40s. 2 are still critically injured. And we've got a couple of dozen others who were lightly wounded, including some children from that attack. Now, we were watching this very closely. Obviously, Israel was expecting to have an escalation. We've been, for better half of the last month, waiting for a U.S. and/or Israeli attack against Iran, knowing that that meant that Iran would attack back. The military is ready. Obviously, we're seeing rockets now hit down in the region, Bahrain, Qatar, the UAE, and we're all working together to be able to stop those rockets, but some will make it through. And as I think one of your guests alluded, there have been some direct strikes, some more in open areas and strategic targets here in the area, most of which we're not able to talk about or to share. But at the same time, the majority of the rockets are stopped by our air defense systems, our Iron Dome, as we know, and the new laser defense systems, which have been put in place since the June war over the summer with Iran.
So, Sandeep, if you were to look at the situation right now, there were some reports that seem to indicate that the effort is to widen the horizon of this conflict, bring in more GCC countries so that they could put pressure on America and on Israel to pipe down. Right now, how long, given the weapons, the systems that Iran has, and the pace at which they're being targeted, 500 plus locations targeted already, and we're told even as we speak, there were several other missile erector launchers, the TELs, they were being taken down. How long can Iran sustain this?
Not more than a couple of days, Gaurav. The fact is that I did mention that Iran has a sizable stockpile of ballistic missiles, cruise and missiles and drones. But all of these are, at the end of the day, they're controlled by humans, right? There are command control chains there. There are communication nodes. And it's a matter of conjecture how long these can actually withstand this barrage of airstrikes. If the Americans and the Israelis carry out vast airstrikes of the kind that they have done yesterday and last night, it's anyone's guess how long a command, a C4ISR node of the kind that Iran has set up will be able to survive this and launch ballistic missiles, launch attacks on other GCC countries. So it's not just a question of decapitation strikes. There are multiple objectives they have in mind. One is to cripple Iran's ability to launch missiles and drones of the kind that they've been doing in the last couple of hours. So, this is a twofold strategy. A regime change on the one hand, the other one is, of course, to completely destroy Iran's ability to launch these, cruise missiles, ballistic missiles. They have one of the largest stockpiles in the world, possibly. They have production lines. They're more or less self-sufficient in doing this. They've been stockpiling these cruise and ballistic missiles. But at the end of the day, they have to be physically launched. You need people to launch them. You need command control chains to do that. And, with this withering level of airstrikes, it's anyone's guess how long they will be able to last this. Not more than a couple of days, Gaurav.
Not more than a couple of days is your assessment, and I want our viewers to look at these images that we are putting out on your television screens right now from Tehran and from Isfahan. The man you see on your television screen is Mojtaba Khamenei. Mojtaba Khamenei is the son of late Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was killed in the strike. So Mojtaba is now taking over the religious power. Imam Khomeini had 6 children, 3 daughters. One, we are told, sadly, along with her husband and a child, were killed in the strike. There's not much information in public domain about the whereabouts of some of the other children. But Mojtaba Khamenei, who was actually handling intelligence operations behind the scenes, looking at recruitment and promotions in the IRGC as the, training the next line of defense, he has now officially taken over. But the 4 images that you see on your television screen, Iran continues to attempt to target GCC countries. Ali Khamenei killed in the strike late yesterday, early this morning. Iran currently mourning the loss of the supreme leader. And will Raza Pahlavi be the person who will be para-dropped after 4 decades? Your appreciation on this, Ambassador Dogra, will exiled Raza Pahlavi family be parachuted by America to take control?
Well, that's the American intention, and it could very well happen in case Iran capitulates. But parachuting is, of course, the done thing for America, but it does not always work, as has happened in other countries.
Bangladesh, it did not work. Bangladesh, it collapsed. The parachuting attempt by the United States.
Exactly, Gaurav. Yunus was a disaster for Bangladesh and for some of its neighbors. But the more important thing is, taking off from the discussion you had just before me, if West has 2 options, Iran also has 2 options. First is the Samson option, which is, if I go down, I'll take the rest down. And hence is widening of attacks on the Gulf countries. The second is the oil option. If America wants to grab the Iranian oil after grabbing the Venezuelan oil and becoming the overlord of the oil world, Iran too is going to squeeze oil to the maximum. And that is why it has closed the Straits of Hormuz, because the effect would be on India directly and immediately, because most of our gas exports, LNG imports, are from Qatar and UAE. They will be affected, and we will feel the pinch immediately. Our energy imports are also largely now from the Gulf countries. So besides India, rest of the world would also feel energy prices going up. So it's not as if Iran will go down only by itself. America is making a huge blunder for the world. America may have control of the oil, but it will wreck the global economy if this war continues. I hope, as Sandeep says, the war will last only for a couple of days more, but I doubt it.
Your assessment is different. Jen Kulkarni, you want to weigh in as I bring in these images for a moment. And for a moment, Mayan, also stay with me as I want our viewers to look at the images of mourning that are coming in from different parts of Iran, Tehran and Isfahan, but even beyond. So the images that you see on your television screen right now, hundreds and thousands of people in all black holding the portrait of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, offering prayers and chants that are echoing through the capital. Let me also take you to the shrine of Hazrat Masume. Mourners have gathered there at the temple complex. Let me also now take you from Iran to Iraq. Let me take you to Karbala. Karbala is in the southern part of Iraq, and devotees, again, Karbala is a Shia-dominated area in Iraq, and this is where thousands and thousands of devotees and Shia mourners have taken to the streets. At the Imam Hussein shrine, they're marking the moment with very solemn rituals, images that you see from different parts. And Mayan, could this be a cause for grave concern for Israel if the Shia world, by and large, were to attempt and target the United States or Israel or Sunni Muslim countries that may have sided with you, with Israel?
I don't think this is any surprise, the protests that we're seeing in the streets. I think when Israel and the United States made a decision to attack Iran, they knew that there would be some of the people on the ground who were hoping for the help on the way and were going to retaliate against the government, and the opposite, that there would be those who supported the regime and would not want to see it fall. We know that that exists, and we know that there is an opportunity for escalation. You heard U.S. President Donald Trump, as Iran threatens to escalate into attack throughout the region, Trump says, you better not, we will attack back. And Trump Trump and Israel Prime Minister Netanyahu as well has said this is for the long haul. They want to stop, as you mentioned, both the ability of Iran to launch ballistic missiles at Israel, but also at the region and potentially at the United States. They want to cease the nuclear proliferation in the country. Negotiations had been going on, and it was clear to the president that there would be no consensus. Moreover, you have to remember that Iran has been carrying out a regional war and certainly a war with its proxies for a number of years. If even as it's, what you see in Iraq or you see the protests happening in Iran supporting the regime, there might be fear of an escalation on the one hand, but on the other hand, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, so many proxies of Iran carrying out attacks nearly monthly for most of the better part, since Iran, since the revolution. This is something that needs to be stopped, and Trump and Israel are finally committed to stopping it. Israel's been preparing for this attack against the Iranian regime and certainly against Ayatollah Khamenei for a very long time. It was just an issue of being able to pull the trigger, of getting the green light to move forward. That is why when you talk about the 30 tons of explosives targeting Khamenei, where he was, Israel knew where Khamenei sat, Israel knew Khamenei's movements, and when it was given the green light to be able to take the supreme leader down, Israel was able to do so.
Okay, but you've taken down the supreme leader. What next? Because people are on the streets. Now, if you expected people, as the American president and the Israeli prime minister said, that people should take to the streets, this is a golden opportunity for them to bring about a regime change. The images that we see right now are people taking to the streets in support of the regime.
Well, you always run that risk, and there was always discussion as to whether or not, as the prime minister and president calls on the people last night, go out into the streets, bring about regime change. At the same time, our Mossad, right, was sending messages in Persian to the people of Iran, asking them to video and photograph what Israel was doing and what America was doing on the ground. And by the way, there were plenty of people who did so. Part of the ways that we were able to get the report of Khamenei's body being pulled from the rubble were taken from videos being captured there on the ground. Now, it was expected that they could either rally around the flag, so to speak, that you would see the Iranians go out in the streets in support of the regime, or the opposite. I think it's too early to tell. Trump is saying this war could go on for a long time. There are many, and we mentioned it earlier, who believe this will be a very short war. Israel is not, and America are not only taking out the leadership, and just as Iran is planned for second and third rounds, there are also plans, of course, on the Israeli and American side for second and third rounds of leadership to be taken out. You saw it happen with Hezbollah in Lebanon last year, and you're going to see something similar here, I believe, in Iran. So this could be very short-lived, as well as the fact that they're taking out not only the leadership, but also the capabilities. Over the summer, Israel essentially annihilated Iran's air defenses. Israel has almost free reign to be able to go in and carry out these attacks, and we can assume that they're going to continue with their plan until the goal at this point has been achieved.
Sandeep, that's a very pertinent point that Mayan Hoffman is making here from Jerusalem. Israel has this staying power. These are images that we are playing out from Isfahan in Iran. Isfahan saw a massive missile strike. In fact, a volley of rockets and missiles were fired in the direction of Isfahan, because Isfahan is a very crucial missile storage facility, launch site, production facility, and a strategic IRGC center and Iranian security forces center. The images right now, Sandeep, seem to indicate that it is a very dire situation.
Absolutely, Gaurav. And the point you mentioned about the Israeli resilience. We've been in Israel, we've covered the war from there. And one thing I must tell you about, the Israeli people, Gaurav, they're one of the most resilient people on earth. And as someone who's lived there after the 7th of October 2023, Israel, contrary to what a lot of people believed at that time, that they would fold up very quickly, they've continued a war of attrition today, which is now seen Israeli jets over the skies of Iran. For 2.5 years, Israel has been fighting that war. You can, stay away from the politics of Israel, what's going on, what are the compulsions of Prime Minister Netanyahu to fight this war, whether they were, whether there was a massive intelligence failure that led up to the 7th of October 2023. But Israel has surprised everyone in the world with the way they have been fighting this war since the 7th of October. And if Iran thought that they could, force Israel to back off or to bow or to end the fight on their terms, they have something else coming. And today, that war that began on the 7th of October 2023 has reached the doorstep of Iran. The Iranian regime is literally, within its last couple of days, virtually, it's on notice. It's literally on its survival mode now, Gaurav. And if it manages to survive this wave of airstrikes by the Israelis and by the United States, it would have pulled off the almost unthinkable. While, the regimes cannot be changed by airstrikes alone, they can be severely weakened, degraded, and put into a kind of situation that very few countries in the world have, given the kind of technology that's ranged against them from the United States and from Israel. It would be very, very difficult for the Iranian regime to survive this kind of onslaught by Israel and the United States. And simply a matter of miscalculation.
Let me get Ambassador
in 2023.
Let me get Ambassador Dogra to respond to this. The information that we are getting right now is West Asia. The war has crippled aviation across the entire sector. For flyers are stranded across airports. Millions are stranded at airports like Dubai, like Abu Dhabi. There are people who are stranded at Doha. Air India has cancelled over 20 flights to and from West Asia. Air India has actually put out a statement saying the safety of our passengers, crew, that's top priority. Indigo too has cancelled flights to West Asia until the 2nd of March. Etihad has suspended all flights to and from Abu Dhabi as of now. That's the information that is coming in. So step-by-step approach is being taken, and this would indicate, Ambassador Dogra, that the apprehension is, at least for the next couple of days, the situation could remain rather fluid. Stability may be expected over the next 24 to 48 hours, looking at the reaction that comes in from Iran.
Well, there are a couple of points to be made on this issue. Number one is Iran's message specifically to Saudi Arabia, though Saudi Arabia has not been hit so hard as yet. But Iran knew that Saudi Arabia was egging Trump on that he should attack Iran. So Saudi Arabia has been spared, as I said, so far. But the other countries have been told that if we get pinched, if we get hurt, you will also feel the hurt. And that is why the attack on some of the airports. But more than that, Iran's main targets were the American radar and other facilities in the Gulf countries, because they were the ones who were tracking Iran's intentions, Iran's capabilities, and Iran did, according to them, very well by wiping out some of these facilities, especially in Qatar and Kuwait and so on. Iran also wants to spread the message to the people that, look, we've been wronged, and if we've been wronged, we will not let Gulf Arabs rest. And it's sort of a message from Shia to the Sunni world. The other thing that Iran has done by concentrating on Gulf countries is to appeal to the Shia population there. People do not realize that Bahrain has a majority Shia population. People also don't realize that the oil-producing part of Saudi Arabia is Shia populated largely, and some of the other countries have a substantial Shia population. So the acts of
Stay
terror.
with me for a moment, because as we were talking about disruption in aviation, not just in West Asia, but the impact it's happening across the industry and reactions that are coming in from India. Major disruptions. The Ministry of Civil Aviation has announced 444 flights are being cancelled today. 444 flights because of this escalating tension.
On the 22nd of
West
February
Asia
2026,
Iran.
Mexico's
The
most
Ministry of
wanted
Civil
man
Aviation
and
the
the leader of
General
the
of Civil
feared
Aviation
drug
in
cartel
a
was
statement
killed during a
have
security
said that they're in
operation.
close coordination with
Nemesio
carriers
Siguera
to ensure
Cervantes, known
safety and
as El
compliance
Mencho,
of
died
all
midway.
rules and international norms amidst airspace closure across parts of West Asia after military strikes and retaliatory attacks. Passengers are now being advised to check and confirm their flight status with the airline before traveling to the airport. Major Indian airports are on operational alert to handle any diversion that may come. Efforts are being on to manage terminals better, assist passengers with the crowd control. Senior officials are being deployed at various airports for passenger assistance. Another control room is also being activated. The situation remains extremely grim. It's a volatile situation that's forced airlines worldwide to reroute flights, avoid the closed airspace or unsafe airspace. There are 11 airspaces that have now been earmarked across the region, and these 11 airspaces are seen as extremely vulnerable. Some airspaces, NOTAM has been issued. NOTAM is notice to airmen, which means there should be no flying except designated military aircraft, rockets or missiles, as the case may be. Once a country issues a NOTAM, no civilian traffic moves in that area. So much of Persian Gulf region and West Asia, it's now restricted. Carriers are diverting north via Afghanistan and then Turkmenistan and going ahead through Turkey. And this actually squeezes the global air routes, the global corridor between the Iran crisis. And do keep in mind, there's also the war that's happening between Russia and Ukraine. So skies there are restricted, skies here are restricted. Dubai airport was targeted by an Iranian drone, causing some disruptions. Abu Dhabi airport saw stranded passengers because of operational delays. Bahrain airport also reported a hit by an Iranian drone. Regional tensions continue to escalate. A lot of reactions also coming in. We get you this report.
Tensions are escalating in the Middle East after US and Israel have launched strike against Iran, and even Iran has retaliated, which has directly impacted the air traffic around the Middle East and the South Asia. Currently, I'm here at the IJI airport, and I'll show you behind me on the departure board. You can see the flights towards Middle East and Europe have been cancelled. According to DGCA, around 410 flights were cancelled yesterday, and around 444 flights are expected to get cancelled today, which is directly impacting on the passengers, those who are coming here.
410 flights have been cancelled. Multiple flights have been diverted. I quickly want to cut across to Anjali for more.
Well, absolutely, Gaurav, as you were rightly mentioning about the closure of airspaces in several countries in West Asia. So because of the tensions and the crisis in West Asia, the flight operations have been massively impacted. Now, we'll quickly walk our viewers through the old route, the pre-crisis route, how it used to look like for a flight which was to fly from India to Europe, and how the route looks like now. So this is the original route, how it looked like before this crisis, before the tensions in West Asia. So if you talk about the route, it used to start from India, it used to be over Pakistan, then Iran, and then also passing through Iraq and Turkey, and then eventually Europe. So now this is a route for a flight from India to Europe, but this has now changed. If we talk about the current route, because of the airspace closure in West Asian countries, because of the tensions, of course, the route has now been changed. The route has been diverted. Now the new route looks like Pakistan, then Afghanistan, then Turkmenistan, and then Turkey. So that is the new route. The flights have been diverted on the new route. So this was the old route before the crisis, before the tensions in West Asia. But the route has now changed. The new route is over Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, and Turkey. We'll also show our viewers how the new route looks like. As you can already see, the air traffic, because of the closure, because of the airspace closure over Iran, there are no flights that can be seen over Iran, and not just Iran, but other countries in West Asia also. Now, this is how the new route looks like for a flight from India to Europe. It flies over Pakistan, then Afghanistan, then Turkmenistan, and eventually to Turkey, and then Europe. So this is the new route because of the diversions, and because of this, as you can see, the route now becomes longer. The earlier route was shorter, and this new route is a lot longer than the previous one. Now we'll also take a look at what are the implications of this diversion, of the rerouting of the flights due to this crisis in West Asia. Now the route becomes longer, which means that there will be more fuel consumption in the flights, because it will require more fuel to fly for the same destination, which will eventually raise the operational costs also. So these are some of the implications. Longer flight time. Of course, if the route becomes longer, the flights will take more time to reach the destination, and they will also require more fuel, and which will eventually increase the operational costs. Now, increasing the operational costs will also reflect in the ticket pricing. So as we were mentioning, the detours increase the fuel consumption significantly, because of course the route becomes longer, so more time, more fuel is needed for the to reach the same destination. Now, increased operating costs, of course, because of the fuel that increases, and also the working hours of the crew that's managing the flight, higher ticket prices, because the operational cost increases, that eventually raises the ticket prices also, and that the passenger has to bear the brunt of the higher ticket prices because of the higher operational costs. So airlines may pass increased costs to passengers, and that is what is being seen, and that is what mostly happens, that the airlines pass this increased burden to the passengers, which reflects in the form of higher ticket prices of these airlines, because of the rerouting, the diversions, and of course the route becoming longer. So these are the implications. Revenue loss due to flight cancellation. So some flights have been diverted, but there are a lot of flights which have been cancelled. And in fact, even in the flights that have been diverted, there are several cancellations that the airlines are facing. So there's massive revenue loss to the airlines also because of these diversions, because of the cancellations, and the congestion in alternative corridors, as we just saw in the pictures, because even the new route is a usual route for the other airlines. So now, because some of the airlines have diverted to these routes, there is massive congestion that is being witnessed on these routes because of the airspace closure in West Asian countries. Longer routes increase aviation's carbon footprints also. So not just operational costs and time, but it also has an impact on the environment, as there's more carbon footprint due to longer routes and more fuel consumption.
So flights from India to Europe have been diverted. The route before the flight was via Persian Gulf and southern Iran. That was a shorter flight, more fuel efficient. Now it's changing. They're not using Iran at all. They're diverting via north. They're flying over Afghanistan, then Turkmenistan, and then Turkey. So as Anjali was just explaining, it's a longer flight. It's a costlier flight. The West Asia war is bleeding the aviation sector already. Longer flight time, increasing detours, more consumption, increased operational cost, and then of course automatically higher ticketing prices. Airlines, they may pass on this increased cost to passengers. Revenue loss due to flight cancellations are also being reported. Congestion in alternate routes, longer routes increase the aviation carbon footprint, but as people are being killed, perhaps this is the least of the challenges right now. Ambassador Dogra, some assessment was maybe the next 24 to 48 hours, perhaps, but all indications that you've been able to gather, the words that are coming in from Iran, cries for intiqam. Do you see the Shia world uniting? Because there were some analysts who were arguing that whether it's the Shia world, it's the wider Islamic world that will unite against America and Israel. But with Saudi Arabia, according to reports in America, being in favor of these strikes or advocating these strikes, do you see this as the Islamic world divided, the Shia world seeking revenge, or elements in the Shia world seeking revenge?
Well, there are two parts to your question. One, whether there'll be a total Islamic unity. I think I'll reserve my opinion on that, because while the governments want Iran to be humiliated, the people, the Sunni people, are not united on that score. Their sympathies are with the people of Iran who are suffering. I'll give you an instance. There was a video grab of a missile falling in Qatar, and people of some say Pakistani origin were very happy that Qatar was being struck by that missile. So that is one small example of people's feeling. As far as the Shia world is concerned, whether they are in Lebanon or Syria or any part of the world, Shias are a very united lot. Even in Pakistan, which has about 20% Shia population, little less than that maybe, they are fully with Iran. And as far as Iran...
But then they're systematically targeted by the Sunnis of Pakistan. So that wider Muslim unity, you don't see that happen, because there are some reports that seem to indicate a Sunni Pakistan was helping a Shia Iran, or at least helping elements in the IRGC. But those were only intelligence inputs that were coming in.
Well, on the other hand, Pakistan is also giving its airspace and air bases to USA to attack Iran. So that exactly proves my point. Like Saudi Arabia, in Pakistan also, establishment is with USA for selfish reasons or other reasons. But people of Pakistan are not entirely in sync with the establishment's intentions. And as far as the Shia part of Pakistan is concerned, they're definitely with Iran.
Okay. Mayan, your appreciation that all of this must have been war game, the kind of reaction that will come in. The Shia world may unite, but then the Shia world was united against America and Israel even when the Hezbollah was taken down. But do you see a wider Shia-Sunni unity coming into effect the way a Shia Iran was helping a Sunni Hamas?
I think it's a little bit too early to tell what the final ramifications are going to be. Certainly, you've seen, as you mentioned, the protests happening in Iraq. You've definitely seen escalation in the streets of Iran, but it's a little too early to tell. Also, keep in mind, attacks are still being carried out. Even as we're speaking, Israel is pummeling Iran and more to come. And so it really depends, I think, a little bit where you're going to see this play out, whether or not the people are going to feel that their regime is strong enough. Keep in mind that when the 12-day war happened in Iran, one of the reasons that the protesters were able to take to the streets in recent months was because they felt that the Iranian government was a bit of a paper tiger. In other words, they felt that their government, who had said that they were able to attack Israel and win a war against Israel, actually failed over the summer. And here again, Khamenei is dead. Of course, there is a line of secession, as we've talked about, but we don't yet have a clear picture of whether or not there will be leadership. I think one of the guests mentioned you need people in order to launch drones, in order to launch ballistic missiles. And those people need to be leaders who tell you to pull the trigger. The IRGC needs to be strong enough and have enough men on the ground to continue to carry out these targets. It's still too early to tell whether this will be some massive uprising against Israel and the U.S., or in fact that they will go the other way and that we will start to see the people back out in the street protesting and eventually leading to the fall of the regime. As you said, airstrikes are not going to complete this regime. It's not going to fall from airstrikes, but a combination of the people on the ground and the airstrikes from the U.S. and Israel could lead to the eventual fall of the Iranian regime.
Mayan, continue to report from Jerusalem and stay safe as you continue to speak to us. Jalil Kulkarni, before I come to you, there's more breaking news that is coming in from Tehran as Iran pledges to retaliate against the United States and Israel. Iran has issued an official statement both to the United States and to Israel. Iran in a statement has said, and I want to quote, "You have burnt our hearts. We will burn your heart." US and Israel that seek to disintegrate Iran. Iran's top security official is warning Iran will do the same. Now there's a very clear warning that goes out to Israel and to the United States of America. US and Israel are seeking to break Iran into multiple pieces. There is a temporary leadership council that has been set up, and this temporary leadership council will continue to meet. And this temporary leadership council, according to reports that are emerging from Iran, will have President Masoud Pezeshkian, and it will have the leadership of the Supreme Court, the religious leadership, and the council elements that remain in place. Now, this is being reported. As they say, the king is dead, long live the king. What's the next line? President Masoud Pezeshkian, who's seen as a reformer, and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court or the religious court, they will come together and they will take this forward. Ambassador Dogra, when there's a warning to America and Israel, you burnt our hearts, we will burn your hearts. Is this more a symbolic, emotional statement, more meant for domestic audience than for international consumption?
Well, certainly it's meant for the domestic audience because it's a big blow for Iran. When a leader dies in Iran, there's a group of experts that is assembled who choose the next leader. And as I said earlier, the lineup was already chosen. So this is a sort of a formality. And this is also an interim arrangement so that to help the new leader carry on with his decisions and activities. But it is also a warning to the world that, look, we are not giving up. We are continuing with the mission that our Supreme Leader had already outlined, and we will follow according to those lines. So this is a show of determination, but I think today will be crucial. If Iran is really serious and capable, it will retaliate hard. On the other hand, then turn out that Iran is now close to giving up because it's an unequal fight if it does not retaliate hard. But my feeling is that Iran wants to show to the world that it is capable of hitting Israel and American assets.
Because there's a strong statement that's coming in from Ali Larijani. And Ali Larijani, as you know, is the Secretary of the Supreme Council. Again, Ali Larijani was someone who was considered to be key in the regime, seen more as somebody who was targeted in the past. But now Ali Larijani is the one who's Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council. He's the one who's issuing a statement. You burnt a hole in our heart. We will burn a hole in yours. Temporary Leadership Council to be set up. General Kulkarni, if there's 40 days of mourning that has been announced, will these 40 days of mourning be used to regroup, rearm and strike, or America and Israel will not permit that? As Mayan Hoffman was just reporting from Jerusalem, Iran is continuously being pounded by Israel and by America to ensure that they don't even succeed in raising their head anymore.
Gaurav, I see, an escape route. Just see lakhs and lakhs of people are on the street, but you don't find Americans or the Israelis intervening in it. They are allowing that to happen. It's indicator that there's a reconciliation also going on simultaneously. They aren't wanting to humiliate the Iranians. That's very clear. But otherwise, if the countries are at war, would you think there would be lakhs and lakhs of people on the street wanting to die or being struck by aircraft? That air supremacy is entirely with the Americans and the Israelis? They have not done that. They want reconciliation. And that reconciliation, the fight is not with the Iranians. The fight is with the clergy there. And that's where we must understand that the Americans are also looking for an escape route. The Iranians are also looking for one. Probably some sane thinking will there. This 40 days mourning will ensure that the Iranians also reconcile. The Americans also ensure that they can't bulldoze their way through. Iranians also know that in all civilization, they need to have that respect, their honor intact. And in that context, I feel that this mourning period and this lakhs and lakhs of people in the street allowed to assemble in a war scenario is indicative of a reconciliation move by the Americans and by the Israelis, as long as the Israelis' existential threat is there, not there, perfectly fine. And they can exist well, and the Middle East countries can also exist with Iran. I think this is a very good sign that they have been allowed to come on the street, mourn, and nothing would ever happen to them as a reconciliation by the Americans.
But how should we view this statement, Ambassador Dogra, of Ali Adarshir Larijani? Ali Larijani, the Secretary of the Iranian Supreme Security Council, is seen as a heavyweight political leader. He's 67 years old. Ali Larijani has had a career which has spanned military career, legislative career, political career. All of this is very strong. Could he be, one of the faces that the West could be looking at as some kind of continuation of the past, but be the transition person before they move forward? The statement has just come out from him.
Well, if West thinks that they can influence Larijani to change course, they are mistaken, because Larijani has been in this game for a long time. Moreover, Khamenei's second son, as you pointed out, who's
Mojtaba.
taken over now,
yes,
he has been trained for this role. He has been trained for quite some years now. So it's not as if someone has been suddenly brought in is inexperienced and will not be able to take charge. He is capable of taking charge because he knows the ropes, he knows the system. So Larjani is just one of the aides and principal aides that he might choose to continue with. But the decisions will be made by the Khamenei Jr.
So Mojtaba Khamenei, and for a moment I want to talk about him, and Ambassador Dogra, get your minds on Mojtaba. He was someone who was seen as moving in, very close to with his father, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was neutralized by the Americans, but someone who was already working on the IRGC, the internal security, promotions in the armed forces, someone who was looking as the next rung of leadership. Do you see him as the person who will next be on target of the Americans then?
Yes, absolutely. Because if Americans want regime change, that does not mean just one person being eliminated. That means the supreme leader. Regime change means that the entire leadership is changed and a new leadership which is amenable to American interests, meaning the son of the former Shah. So for that to happen, Americans will have to really put boots on ground, which I don't see happening. That'll be a risky venture. So America really is in a fix. They cannot just bomb out the entire leadership of Iran down to its fourth level, because Iran has a system whereby 4 rungs of leadership are already pre-selected.
That's a very important point you're making, and I want our viewers to know this, that since this war has been on for quite some time, post-2023, this has been on, and information that we are getting is Masoud Pezeshkian, the president of Iran, and Judiciary Chief Ghulam Hussein Mohseni, and a jurist from the Guardian Council, Iran's constitutional watchdog. So they will be in charge of this transition phase. That's the information that we are getting in, and I'll get you more on the story. We're getting a lot of inputs from inside Iran also. But big story coming in. The Muslim world has erupted in anger. India not untouched by the flames that singe the Islamic world in general. India has a sizable Shia Muslim population. There are protests that are being reported from Lucknow. Now, Kargil in Ladakh and Lucknow in Uttar Pradesh are 2 pockets of a sizable Shia Muslim population, and the images that you see on your television screen, very peaceful though. Very peaceful protests that are being reported from Lucknow. People have taken to the streets in Lucknow against the killing of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. I want to cut across to Santosh for more on this. Santosh, there's anger and anguish in Lucknow. Bring us a sense of what people are telling you.
As you are seeing the anger and the anguish of the Lucknow people, especially the Shia community, you can see through the visual that how the protesters coming on the road, and they are claiming that this Ayatollah Khamenei as their supreme leader. He was not only the leader of Iran only, he was the supreme leader of the whole Muslim community, especially the Shia community. And you can see through the visuals that the people came on the road on the anger and the anguish of the killing of Ayatollah Khamenei. These are the visuals of the old Lucknow, you can say, a big hub of the Shia community, and they are protesting against the killing of Ayatollah Khamenei. And you can see through the visuals that many of the protesters are coming, and they say that Ayatollah Khamenei is the supreme leader, that they're not only for the Iran, even for the whole world, Islamic world. So we can say the people's coming on the street or the protests, as they said that Ayatollah Khamenei is the supreme leader, not only for the Iran, even all the whole world Islamic community. And you can see that the Shia community is on the road and they are protesting against the killing of Ayatollah Khamenei. So these are the visuals that the people came on the road as their anger, to show their anger and the anguish against America and the, and even against Israel in the, due to the killing of Ayatollah Khamenei. You got it.
What is it that these people are demanding? What is it that these people want? I notice a lot of their criticism is aimed at the United States and Israel and a lot more. But what is it that they're looking at?
You can see the people are protesting against the killing of the Ayatollah Khamenei. कि आप लोगों के इस विरुद्ध से क्या मांगे हैं कि क्या ये हुआ है?
मांगे कोई नहीं, हमारी मांगे क्या, हमारी जुल्म के खिलाफ एक ये प्रोटेस्ट है, ये शहादत है। ये शहादत जो होती है वो जुल्म के खिलाफ दी जाती है। हम जुल्म के खिलाफ लड़ते हैं। ये जीत हार का मसला नहीं है। हम लोग